Good. All right. Good evening, everyone. It's 6 p.m. It is July the 13th, and this is the Town of Spencer regular board meeting for the month of July. With that, I officially call the meeting to order. We have all board members present this evening, and we will begin with an invocation. If you will, bow your heads. Father, we thank you for this glorious day. We thank you for this season before us. We thank you for the work of our town staff. We thank you for the residents that support this town and the businesses as well. We ask that you be with us as a board tonight. Give us guidance, wisdom, and discernment. May we do your will and the will of the people of this town. We thank you for all of those we recognize tonight, for their many contributions over the years to this town. We thank you for the commitment of our citizens, of our leaders, of our staff. We ask that you be with us in the coming days. Amen. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. We have several recognitions to make this evening, and so we will start with those. The first is a proclamation from the office of the mayor that I will read this evening. It is a proclamation recognizing former Mayor Buddy Gaddis and the many contributions that he has made to our town over the years, to our community and beyond. We mourned the passing of Mr. Gaddis recently. I will say he was a great man. He was a great citizen. He was a great leader in Spencer. And for me personally, he was a great neighbor. So with that, I will read the proclamation. We're thrilled to have several of Buddy's family members here tonight. Martha, his wife, is here. His son is here as well, so we appreciate y'all being here tonight. I see Spencer's back there too, so we're glad Spencer can be here, Buddy's grandson. Whereas Edgar Walter Buddy Gaddis was a lifelong resident of this community from his birth in 1936 until his recent passing, and whereas he devoted his life to community service, especially through the J.C.'s, Spencer Presbyterian Church, and the town of Spencer, including 5 terms as mayor from 1991 until 2002. And whereas he felt passionate about using his skills and service to advocate for a range of community issues, from diversity and desegregation in the 1960s to advocating for college-level courses at North Rowan High School in the 1980s. And whereas Governor Mike Easley conferred the Order of the Longleaf Pine on former Mayor Gaddis in July of 2005, and whereas Buddy Gaddis rendered invaluable leadership and service to the citizens in town and inspired others to take action in their community, and whereas it is fitting that the town recognizes such valuable service and expresses its sincere appreciation of his dedication rendered as a public servant to Mr. Gaddis' family on behalf of the citizens of Spencer. And now, therefore, I, Jonathan D. Williams, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the town of Spencer, and on behalf of the entire board of aldermen and all of our citizens, do hereby proclaim our sincere appreciation to Mr. Edgar Walter Buddy Gaddis for his distinguished legacy of service in Spencer and the entire North Rowan community. Be it further proclaimed that our deepest sympathy and condolences are expressed to the Gaddis family, and that a copy of this proclamation will be provided to his loved ones with sincere gratitude, and a copy shall be placed within the records of the town of Spencer. And with that, I have a plaque to present to Buddy's family, and so if a representative would come forward.
You gotta go too. Everybody go look at it.
Martha, I know that behind every great man is a great woman, and I know you as well are a great advocate of Spencer and were a great supporter of Buddy. Thank you for the time that you shared him with us in our town, and thank you for being a great neighbor. Randy, thank you. He's raised a great son, and the things that you do within our town to carry on his legacy are very appreciated. So with that, I want to present you with this plaque. May it help you remember the wonderful things he has done for our town.
Perfect. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
All right, our next recognition is for our All-American Saturday Night Out event. And I believe Ms. Sechrist was going to provide that recognition.
First of all, I want to thank Alderman Sam Morgan for his vision. When he decided to run for town board, he emphasized that he wanted to make sure that we had certain activities and events. He wanted people to enjoy the town and enjoy getting together. So he is chairing the committee that organizes these events, and they are not easily organized. It takes terrific teamwork. And on behalf of the Board of Aldermen, I want to thank everyone that who participated in making this such a success. Estimates were 500 to 600 people attended. Estimates were 100 to 200 vehicles, ranging from classics to just regular, ordinary cars that were spiffed up and looked really nice. A great time was had by all, and the children enjoyed it just as much. The food trucks, several of them sold out, so I know they were happy. I know the beer garden people were happy. There were no incidences of trouble, so it was great publicity and a great time. A special shout out to committee members Laurie and Coleman Wilson. If I'm not mistaken, they got all the food trucks arranged, and they did this in the committee did less than 2 months, which is astounding. I don't know how they did that. And also Lauren West, Sam's stepdaughter, who put in a lot of work in helping get it organized and set up on that day. And a big shout out to our Spencer departments and employees who assisted in every way. Joel Taylor in the Public Works Department. I know they got some of the barriers that we needed, and trash cans and et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of details that are always behind the scene. Kyle Harris, Planning and Zoning, and he worked on trying to recruit that evening also for the community garden. Chief James and the Spencer Police Department for their vigilance, and also they were available to talk to people. Our fire chief, Mr. Lanning, and his department, who brought their fire trucks there for the children to enjoy and the citizens to see. Stacy Craven, our town clerk, who kept us on our toes with meetings and organized and notified us about things that were going on, and if I'm not mistaken,
And the
prepared
printing.
the publicity.
Yeah.
Which was wonderful. She did an outstanding job on that. Also, thanks to our board and our mayor and to our town manager, who also helped pull this together, because there's a lot of people that have to be contacted. Again, we look forward to so many more of these activities in the future, and congratulations on the teamwork, and congratulations, Sam, for leading it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
It's a start.
It was a good start.
And Mayor, perhaps Alderman Morgan wants to talk about the committee's last discussion related to this event carrying on with more of a regular schedule of sorts.
We, again, one of the reasons I got back into town government was to help bring about more events for a wide variety of, all of our citizens, because our population has diversified. We want to have more events for our veterans, for older adults, for children. Hopefully, down the road, we'll be able to have maybe a summer recreation program. But as a spinoff from the cruise-in, we've invited anyone that wants to participate to come to our town on the fourth Saturday of every month through the rest of the summer. It doesn't have to be organized. If people just want to come and visit our town and park in the old Park Plaza area, we welcome them. And there are other events planned in the future. We're hoping to have a big Winterfest the first 2 weekends in December, and also another cruise-in. I think scheduled cruise-in is scheduled for October the 23rd, and also more into next year. So, again, thanks again to everybody involved.
All right, thank you, Mr. Morgan. And with that, we have one more additional recognition. Mr. Miller would like to recognize a summer art camp students and volunteers. And those of you, if you've been around town lately, I think the town of Spencer may this summer becoming the art capital of Rowan County. So, Mr. Miller.
Thank you very much. Several weeks ago, we had about 15 students from North Rowan Middle School and North Rowan High School participating in a week-long art camp that is held at Mary Mays. These students drew and sketched many of the homes of Spencer and businesses in our town. As well, they did mosaic drawings of some of our leaders in our town. All these pictures will be digitized and put together and make a grand picture of our town. And I understand this artwork will be on display in our new lobby in our new town hall. So we look forward to that. And I hope all the citizens of our community can, when we open up our new town hall, we'll be able to view this beautiful work from some of these fine artistic students we have from the schools that we have. We have special thanks for the art camp for volunteers, and they are Sherry Mason Brown, Kim Lynch, Shannon Clausen, Corrine Malden, Sheila Weisner, Karen Purnell Campbell. Also, thanks for all the sponsors who help with the finances of this project, and also Mary Mays for providing her facilities. And finally, thank you for the town staff who and members of the board who came in and supported these students as far as that goes. I know they appreciated it. And the future of our town could be in the hands one of these days of some of these fine kids that are doing great work. So we'd like, again, I think the town is trying to encourage our young people the right direction.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
I have one, John.
Okay, Mr. Bish.
Sometimes we look at just the more immediate area in Spencer to offer recognition, but I also wanted to mention one that just came up today. I was at the I-29 state DMV office and trying to get some paperwork done. And I looked and saw exactly how much work they had to do there, how many people they had to service. Even though they're servicing a good portion of Rowan County, I was appreciative of the amount of work that they were doing, even though I was there for quite a few hours. And I would hope that somewhere along the line, the governor would replace some of the lost personnel out of that office so that we can get our people out on the road in an efficient manner. But I give them a lot of props.
Great.
over
Thank
at
you,
that
Mr.
office.
Bish.
Mhm.
And thank you for your patience today. I know it can take a while there. So thank you.
Did.
All right, very good.
I should have used your name.
Yeah, they wouldn't have served you.
That might get
They
even
told you to
worse.
come back another day. All right, very good. We're on item 4 now. That's adjustments to an adoption of the agenda. So you have the agenda before you. With that, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? All right,
I move that we accept the agenda as presented.
thank you. There's a motion by Ms. Sledge. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Miller. All in favor? All opposed? All right. Our agenda is approved unanimously. We will now move to public comment. And so I will first ask the clerk, have we received any written or emailed correspondence?
We received email correspondence from Mayor Pro Tem Cephas, and I'd like to read it.
Okay, very good.
Citizen Michael Toller wanted to know if there could be a plaque in New Building Park or that commemorated veterans. And he also wanted to address that he thinks that Spencer needs a public pool. David Johnston, North Rowan High School grad, said his class wanted to memorialize their deceased classmate with a tree or something placed in the Park Plaza upcoming park or somewhere else in town.
Okay,
That was just the information that
Very
they
good.
asked me to check on.
Thank
And I
you
told
for
them
sharing.
we'd get back with that.
very good. Thank you for sharing. All right, and with that, do we have any public comment from citizens that are here with us tonight? Yes, Mr. Wasser. If you will, just state your name and address for the record.
My name is Jason Walser. I live at 8 Pine Tree Road in Salisbury, North Carolina. I'm a frequent visitor to Spencer, and I enjoy riding my bike here on a regular basis and walking at Spencer Woods. I'm speaking just to say thank you. I think Spencer Woods is being maintained and managed very well. It's a great destination, and I'm excited and hopeful that Yadkin River Park will continue to encourage or bring people like me to this community and will be in addition to the great park you already have with Standback Forest at Spencer Woods. I think that it's really exciting for me to see what Spencer is doing and all the opportunity you have. And I don't spend a ton of money when I come here, but I do have lunch out. I do buy sodas, and I intend to bring my family to keep doing that. I've had more than one picnic over at Spencer Woods from, is it Spring Garden, the Chinese restaurant here in town? I go there on a regular basis. It's great carry out. It's really reasonable. So thank you for all you're doing. I really do think it makes a difference. It puts a great face forward for Spencer, the way that you maintain the parks. And I just saw Joel back there. He's phenomenal. The park really stays clean and nice, and I've never had a bad incident when I've been there. So kudos to your staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Wasser.
you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comment? All right, with that, we will move on to our consent agenda. And the only item on our consent agenda tonight is approval of the minutes from our June meetings. We had 3 meetings, our pre-agenda meeting, our regular meeting, and a called meeting that we held. So that's June 1st, 3rd, and 8th. With that, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
There's a motion by Ms. Sledge. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Miller. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? All right, those are approved unanimously. We are now on item 7 of the agenda, and that's consideration of adopting Resolution 21-010 for accepting the American Rescue Plan funds. With that, I will turn it over to the town manager.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the board. This item is a resolution to accept the funds and authorize the town manager to execute any necessary agreements on behalf of the board. In doing so, in May, the board voted to authorize the town manager to accept the funds, and we received some further guidance that suggests different action is required, and that the board actually does accept the funds, but the town manager is authorized to execute the agreements. We have received agreement documents from the state, and with that, an updated cost estimate for this funding. The original estimate was about $950,000. The current estimate is $1,037,000, $37,997.57. And this funding needs to be obligated sometime before the end of the calendar year 2024 and spent prior to the end of calendar year 2026. We've received a lot of feedback that we still need to wait and learn as we go along, as we discern how to best use these funds, how to leverage with other levels of funding, and so on. So we will continue to do that, but this is the next step to take in the process of using the Federal American Rescue Plan, coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds.
And once we agree to accept this full amount, the first half of that will be distributed in 2021. That's in the amount of $518,998.79. And then the remainder of the funding will be distributed in 2022, 1 year or more after the first disbursement. So that's how the funding will roll out. And I know all the guidance we've given has been to go ahead and receive the funds, but wait to spend them until the additional guidance comes out. So we will have an opportunity to be thinking about how those funds can be best used in our community, but we do have a little time to be thinking about that. All right, with that, are there any questions on the resolution? All right, given the nature of the resolution, I'm not going to read it in its entirety. but is there a motion to approve Resolution 21-010 for the town of Spencer to accept American Rescue Plan Act funds?
So moved.
There's a motion by Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, second by Ms. Sledge. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? All right, that resolution is approved unanimously. Thank you. The next item is item 8, and I will invite Mr. Joe Morris forward. He's going to give an update on the Yadkin River Trailhead.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Board of Aldermen. We had prepared a presentation. We had a meeting on Friday with a group of interested citizens who have been in pursuit of this dream for the Spencer community, and that is the Yadkin River Trailhead. And so we had folks from Salisbury Spencer area. We had representatives from Davidson County who have built and are building a wonderful park on the Davidson County side of the river, and a discussion about how we might move forward with a plan to provide a trailhead that would connect Spencer to the Wilcox Bridge and to the Yadkin River Park, and that this would be something that we would begin to work on. And we have a design, we had a strategy for phasing and financing, and part of the reason we're providing this update tonight is that we intend to apply for a recreational trail program grant to provide funds to the project. And so we've been working really hard not to use town of Spencer general fund money in this project. So we've been doing all of that, and things have changed. And I wanted to explain that what I hope we can accomplish about 3 things tonight, perhaps, or 4. One is to give you the update on the status of the project. We are in that process, but I wanted to introduce to you, if you haven't met Jeff Ashbaugh, who's with Benesh. He's going to give you an overview of the concept plan and some of the work he's been doing. And then we want to have some commentary from Ronnie Smith, who has been, just instrumental in this entire process. As part of the grant application, we need to make a notation in our pre-application that we've had an opportunity for public comment. I know Jason Walzer has already weighed in, but maybe there are other folks here that would be willing to do that as well. So I apologize for sort of the clunky nature of all this, but this is unrehearsed. And so I'm going to ask Jeff to come forward, and I'll sit down and be quiet while he's talking to you about the plan for the Yadkin River Trailhead Park. Jeff, thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good to be here tonight with you. And I'd like to start, first off, just by saying that me personally and Benish, we've had the opportunity to work with Spencer staff, also with the Yadkin River Park Committee, with a lot of project partners, Davidson County, and a lot of unnamed people in the design and the development of Yadkin River Park. And it truly is, when I say Yadkin River Park, we see it as one big park. On the Davidson County side, Wayne County side, Spencer side, it's all one, not necessarily 2 separate things. And I can truly say, after designing parks and trails for over 30 years, this is one of the greatest projects I've worked on, a real joy to work on. Some projects you go to and it's kind of drudgery and you kind of go, oh, when will this thing get through? But we've worked on it for years, and it's refreshing every time. So I'm refreshed just to be here tonight, to be before this group, and continue talking about this great project, and for all of us to be a part of something very unique here. So thank you. And mainly that's because of the project itself, but also the people that are involved. I think the people that are connected through this process really make it a very unique and great project. And those people will be far beyond this room, members of the public and people that are not even in our community yet. So it's truly a unifying element to our community. But I am here to give an update tonight on the design process, as Joe mentioned. I'm going to start with the schedule, and if I start stealing your thunder a little bit, say, wait a minute, shh, don't say anything. But you might be curious to know kind of where we are with the project, what's happening, it's almost like because of COVID, we've all been in our places and we've all been kind of keeping safe and that sort of thing. And now we're all coming back out again and reconnecting. So some things might be a little fuzzy in our mind, and it's like a year has disappeared almost. But with this project, while we might not have been in the same room together or on a computer screen, work has been taking place on this project. Not just a flicker, but a pretty steady glow in the fireplace, if to make an analogy here. And so just some of the specifics that have taken place over the last few months. One, we've obtained right of way from, or the property, as you will, for the project from DOT. And when we say the project, kind of to refer to it, it's that strip of land. We'll get into the maps in a minute, but it's the strip of land directly in front of the old finishing plant. There's a narrow strip of land, and it goes between Wilcox Bridge and I think we call it Finishing Plant Lane or Fieldcrest Cannon Lane and 29. So it's about a half acre in there, kind of a linear park configuration. So that's been acquired. It's been surveyed. We've got a physical survey. That's one of the things that's required for design or needed so that we get a really good, accurate design. And we've updated the master plan to make the project more attractive for grants, as Joe talked about. And that will really help leverage funds. And that's the whole idea, that we try to really get a good ROI. So we put in a little bit of public money and then combine that with private money and grant money. And in the end, everybody kind of contributes and we do something great together. We've also prepared phasing plans and cost estimates for various improvement scenarios. And presently, design is underway and almost completed. Will be completed soon for the first phase. We're wrapping up on it as we speak. And then we can be ready to start construction on phase 1 improvements as early as this fall, depending on the funding. And then if we're successful enough to get an RTP grant or some other type of grant funding, and additional funding may fall into place sometime in the near future, we might could combine some phases together. And that might delay us a little bit. And so maybe it's spring when we start construction, if we can kind of combine it, get some economy of scale. More about that later. But here are a few details about the design that we've been making. And I don't want to go into a detailed presentation of the master plan unless you like. If y'all would like, I'd be happy to do that. Just say, go into the detailed explanation and I will. But in the interest, we could be here all night. I mean, y'all probably all are familiar with the project and know just how cool.
So Jeff, I do think it would benefit our board
Uh-huh.
to get a little overview of kind of the overall vision for the entire park, because I think they're very familiar with what we're planning to do on the Rowan County side and the Spencer side, but maybe not so much about what's taking shape on the Davidson County side.
Sure, great, yes. Okay, and I'm just gonna kind of orient the members of the audience and you guys kind of like to the map. So what we see here is an overall map. This will give you kind of the context or the vicinity of the whole project, the big picture look, bird's eye view. And the screen is a duplicate of what we're seeing here on the board. So the Yadkin River, just to orient everybody, is right in the center of the big squish that you see. Wilcox Bridge, right in the dead center there, okay? So we have the kind of the Davidson County side, the Lynn Spencer side, and the areas that are shaded in green, kind of colored in, really show where the park is located, if you will, on both sides of the river. So it's probably been a couple of years. You've noticed on the Davidson County side, Davidson County got a head start on the improvements, and they've got a plaza over on the east side. You've seen that with a step connection down to the river, and the York Hill boat launch, this area there as well. There's been some activity going since then, design-wise, on the Fort York piece. And it's been a very organic process. How this started, as you know, it was just like pieces of property started coming in, and all of a sudden we were able to systematically just assemble all these pieces together and make one big park. So the focus lately and more recently has been on the Fort York side to really combine that Fort York property and make it a part of the park. Combine it with the York Hill area. There's been some other tracks. DOT has donated some more property, or maybe the county acquired that from them, where there used to be an old borrow pit. Today, you might notice there's a parking lot that's been constructed up there and a dog park. That's some of the more recent activities. And there's some future plans up on the hilltop for this very much an iconic, I call it a fire tower almost. the committee's kind of looked at it and seen an image of it. And I cannot remember, Ronnie or Joe, you may can tell us the gentleman who is kind of helping with that.
Mike Leonard.
Mike Leonard, there's the guy. Mike Leonard has been kind of a real spearheading the effort, but he's shown shown us this image of a fire tower down in Alabama. If you can remember or get in your mind the image of down in eastern North Carolina, one of those fire towers that goes up, and people kind of go up there. The rangers go up and they can look out. I don't know, a long way, 60 miles or something, and really scan the horizon for fires and things. It's a structure like that, but much prettier. It doesn't have steps going up in it, but it has this very nice tower with a stone facade and a couple of maybe a picnic shelter or a museum on the other side, like some type of visitor center, that sort of thing. So really beautiful structure up on the high point here, something that would attract a lot of people to the area and be a signature element that would kind of anchor the Yadkin River Park, make it visible from the interstate so that people may want to say, hey, what's over there? And kind of stop over. So that's kind of been some of the more recent activity. There's some a themed playground that they're looking at doing as well. A pretty large themed playground, as well as some trails, some additional trails and that sort of thing. So, oh, I'm sorry. And you always kind of think of some extra things. There's also a proposed, we'll call it a nature center or an environmental center that would go at the top of the boat access area here, the York Hill boat access area, and it would have maybe a two-story structure that would locate maybe have a bait shop in the bottom, some restrooms, maybe a snack shop or something, and above it maybe a classroom or some kind of environmental education center, something of that nature. So those are some of the discussions that have been taking place on the Davidson County side. And I think the real thought process here on the Spencer side is to do something, not to emulate and do the exact same thing, but to complement what's been done over on the other side and build upon it and maybe try to do something a little different. So, and Johnny, you said it very well, and I can't remember how you articulated that, but that it was not going to do the same thing, something different but complementary. So I think that really
No, Sam.
says that, really articulates
We,
it.
Sam, yes, we have shared the zip line idea with Mr.
I didn't say a thing.
That would be pretty cool.
And it might get us Parks and Recreation funding.
There you go.
What we've talked about, though, is, on the Spencer side, that's really kind of the gateway. We keep talking about we're the Rowan's original gateway, and so that's the
There you
gateway
go.
to Yadkin River Park. But also, we have an opportunity with Finishing Company site, with that multi-use site, to redevelop that. And, if you start to think about it, you can envision things like lodging and retail and things like that. The people that want to come and take part in the Yadkin River Park, that want to come to the Transportation Museum, it's a great place to stay and then spend a whole weekend in Spencer and Rowan County and Davidson County.
Excellent point. And continuing so some other details about the plan, the master plan revisions that have been done. I know we all talk about the historical landscape of the area, but there's some other things that we're trying to play up to make the project more attractive from a grant perspective, and that is specifically the Recreational Trails Program grant, the RTP grant. So some of the things you may or may not know, and we've added these to the master plan, but the Yadkin River Park connects to the Yadkin River State Trail and the Daniel Boone Heritage Trail. That is a statewide connection, and I believe that is also a connection to the MST. And when we say MST, that's the Mountains to Sea Trail. So, and that's pretty self-explanatory. A long trail, hundreds of miles, that connects the mountains to the sea, and this connects to it as well. This is a blueway, this Yadkin River State Trail. And it's a blueway that extends for 130 miles, just right here, through 9 counties. So that's a pretty significant connection. But there's more, right? The Piedmont Legacy Trail, maybe you've heard of that. That is another regional trail system that connects right here at Yadkin River Park And it connects the Piedmont Trad area, the Winston-Salem, Lexington, Greensboro, High Point area. That's part of that trail system. We've also heard of the Carolina Thread Trail. That's a 15-county regional trail system that comes right here and connects to Yadkin River Park. And the significance of that is in the future, someone can get on the trail down in Rock Hill, South Carolina, get on the Carolina Thread Trail, travel 70 miles, coming through Spencer, and stopping right here, because this is the end point. Or people can come right here from the north and start on the trail at the Yadkin River Park, go right through downtown Spencer again, and then end in Rock Hill. So that's pretty incredible. And we also have another regional connection to the High Point Regional Bikeway. So we're looking at I cannot think of many other projects where you're at the intersection of this many regional trail systems. They all converge and come together right here. So that's the potential to have, we have the potential to have millions of people right here connected through this trail system. So that's pretty cool, very unique. Let's see here. So those are some of the things we were talking about, master plan revisions. We really tried to highlight those in the master plan so that when Joe applies for that RTP grant, that really makes it attractive. I mean, that would make it attractive to me. I would think it was scored pretty well. And then I'm going to kind of go to the more detailed piece where we've been working on the design. This is kind of the enlargement. The Wilcox Bridge is to your right. The river is over here to the right of the screen and the right of the page. You can see the finishing plant where it says double towers right here. So we're talking about this linear park right here. So in case you're not familiar with this, and have not seen the plan, or just need a refresher because we have all been kind of cooped up from COVID. So the area we're talking about again is sandwiched between the finishing plant, 29, Hillcrest Cannon, or finishing plant way, and the bridge right here. So a new landscape plaza will be constructed here off the end of the bridge, the west end. And it would start right here at the bridge and travel about 1,100 feet down to finishing plant way for now, but ultimately down to downtown Spencer, right into Spencer, and ultimately to Salisbury. So we have one long connection there, and ultimately to South Carolina, right? And there would be a very nice street tree planting along 29 here. These will provide shade and really give a lot of curb appeal along the street. And a small parking area will be constructed here near the plaza to allow people easy access on and off the trail. Because of all the people that'll be coming, we're gonna need to have some parking. They'll come a day and it won't be enough, and we'll be talking about, we need to have some parking in the restrooms out here. But kind of the bottom line, in addition to being a trailhead, this will be a gateway, as your new slogan says, and this will be very attractive to the local community and to visitors alike. So at this time, I'd like to just kind of turn the floor over for questions. Is that fair, or turn it back over to Joe?
Well, just to keep things moving along, does anybody have any questions of Jeff before we go any further?
How wide is this strip that we're talking about?
It varies. So it starts at the bridge, and I'm going to say maybe about 60 feet
Okay.
at this point. And for
It
the most
tapers
part,
down?
it tapers down to a point, down to zero.
Okay.
So an average of 40, 60 feet right there.
Okay.
But that connection is back to the public right of way.
Right.
And there's opportunity for sidewalk and,
Yeah.
so that's essentially the footprint of the surplus right of way that we receive from NCDOT. That's what we're working on. So,
It's the old road that was there. That's it. The width of the right of way.
How many parking spaces are you planning for?
We're showing 11 here, but there's also the opportunity to park more on street along Finishing Plant Way There's also the potential for it to make some kind of arrangement or shared parking with the church maybe, and then maybe even the finishing plant.
And the Fieldcrest Cannon Lane, that is a Spencer-maintained or Spencer-owned street, yes.
It's long and wide, and there's plenty of room for parallel parking.
Yeah, I've
You could have
been on
30
it.
cars there.
So one of the initial thoughts is before, I think based on the phasing plan that Jeff has proposed, is that parking lot may not happen as one of the initial phases because there is the ability to stripe Fieldcrest Cannon Lane. But that would come at a later date.
Is Donald Rand being kept
So,
in the loop about what's going on?
so to this extent, the town staff has met with the Rowan EDC, and who was the design firm?
Withers Ravenel. Yeah.
Withers Ravenel, a couple of representatives from Withers Ravenel, and we have talked to them. They're working on the Duke Energy Site Readiness Program, and they're developing some schemes for that property that Mr. Rand and his partner own there. And so we're sort of triangulating with them on this, and I know that the property eventually will be for sale, but that's to my knowledge, it has not been marketed yet. But
Yeah.
Right.
until that program is over.
And they have been kept in the loop about our plans for the trail. I think we met, about a year ago with
Or
them,
longer.
or longer, right
Yeah.
before COVID, I think February
Yeah.
of last year, to actually start laying the groundwork for some of the plans that we have and talking about, a long-range vision for the finishing company site. So they are in the loop.
The other partner is a fellow named Ken Fleming.
Yes.
Name went out of my head. But so we've been, talking a lot across a lot of organizational settings to communicate this plan. We've had a tremendous number of partnerships, and in preparation for the grant application, and very briefly, the RTP grant is, we're submitting a pre-application. We're asking for $100,000 for that. Currently we have $135,000 on hand, all of it given to the town by Friends for Rowan and the Robertson Foundation. So we have funds on hand to pursue the grant, which would require a 25% match. In preparation of the pre-application, we sought and received letters of support from Rowan EDC, Carolina Thread Trail, the Piedmont Legacy Trail, the Piedmont Triad Council of Government, which oversees the Piedmont Legacy Trail, and the Yadkin Riverkeeper. So there's a broad amount of support for this, but there is no greater support that has been provided than by Friends for Rowan. And so this is sort of a segue. I want to ask Ronnie to come up. Jeff, you want to have us back over there? And so maintaining our social distance. So I'm going to ask Ronnie to come up. I'm going to be his assistant and distribute whatever you need me to do, Ronnie, but he wanted to say a few words about this.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
30 seconds.
30, oh my gosh, 30 seconds. I know most of you a little bit, and some of you I don't know as well, so you're going to get to know me in the next few minutes. My name is Ronnie Smith, and I am so proud to be a part of this project. My job tonight is two objectives I have. Jonathan and Joe and Peter have asked me to make an announcement a little bit into my presentation. But my first job is to energize you folks, get you really energized, not just you, but everybody here in the room. And I'm going to speak to that briefly, and then we'll get maybe to the announcement. Jeff, thank you for a wonderful presentation. I am one of the original members, believe it or not, of what we call the David Treem Dream Team. Now, that's got a funny word to it, but years ago, we all got excited with David Treem and a lot of the folks here in Spencer on this project. And that excitement has grown and grown and grown and grown. And we're at a real critical point tonight. And I'm going to ask Joe to do me a favor. I have some handouts. And these are not these are for the 7 folks at the table. Please present them, and you, by the way, you know, if you're a Toastmaster, they say never hand out anything to a group while you're talking because they will not listen to you. So do not read what you're getting. And Joe, that's only one. You got 3 handouts.
Okay, I'll come back
Okay, come back and get
Yeah, I'll make several.
Now,
Do not read
I'm
what
like
we're
Jeff and Joe. This is totally unrehearsed, but you're going to see an excited young man up here. And I want to share this with you because it means so much to me. Okay, let's see. I want one of these apiece and one of these apiece. Okay, Joe, you're good. Okay, and I'm going to rush through this, Jonathan. So you give me this if I get going too long. There's so many things I could tell you. I guess first of all, I want to tell you how I feel. I feel excited. I feel energized. But more importantly, tonight, I feel like a mosquito in a nudist colony. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm overwhelmed with opportunities. I mean, you know, you can imagine that little mosquito. We have so many opportunities here tonight, and I'm just going to share a couple of them with you. And let me regress just a minute. One of the greatest things that I can remember ever doing in Spencer was when we were involved many years ago in the Spencer Library Park and working with Bill Standback and some other wonderful citizens from this area. That dream came true, and we've got another dream today, and we hope that dream will come true too. So with that, let me just make a couple of introductory comments to get you excited and up to date. I don't know if y'all read the papers or not, but last week we made the front page in color above the fold. I mean, that's amazing. Spencer got the greatest coverage in the world, and about a month or two earlier in Lexington, the Dispatch, we made the headlines, the front page above the fold. This is one of the greatest projects, and the enthusiasm is just building and growing and growing and growing. So we want to get you as excited as we possibly can be. Someone said anytime you're developing a project, it's like real estate. What's the 3 magic words? Location, location, location. You took the words right out of my mouth. I'm not going to open up a North Carolina map, but I brought one here with me tonight because if we took a map and put it on the chart here, this is one of my 3 points I want to make, and took the state of North Carolina and divided it in half and then cut it in half again. And pretty much the center of the state, population-wise and almost geographically. Do you know where the point is on that map? Spencer. Spencer. Location, location, location. So we want to take full advantage of that, and especially with the interstate highway and the thousands and thousands of people that go back and forth on that. One comment I want to share, they're not here tonight, but I want to share some quotes. Max Walser, who was the chairman in Davidson County of the Yadkin River Park. Max retired, but he is responsible for that wonderful park across the river. When I first met him, he said one thing to me, and I'll never forget it for the rest of my life. He said, "Ronnie, do you know," and he had researched this, "there is more military history within a mile or two of the Wilcox Bridge than any other site in the United States of America." I did not realize that. And he went on to say, let's go back to the early Spanish explorations. The Native American Indians, the Cherokee, the Sapona, the trading forward, which was the heart of the Piedmont of North Carolina, the Revolutionary War, the battle between Cornwallis and Greene, right here, right outside Spencer. The Civil War, the last battle, one of the last battles of the Civil War was fought right here at the Wilcox Bridge. And then in World War II, the bridge was such a strategic target. I wasn't here, but you might have remembered. They brought in the United States Army, and they set up machine guns and all this stuff down right here. And if you put all that together, we have a gold mine, ladies and gentlemen, and we need to take full advantage of it. The educational, the recreation, everything about it. When I spoke to the commissioners in Davidson County, they got excited about it, and we had a meeting on the bridge, Wilcox Bridge, and I told Joe this, and I'm going to tell you again. And this stayed with me forever. The commissioners said, and they were talking to Rowan and Spencer and Lexington, Davidson County folks, and one of the commissioners said, "I have a comment." He said, "I want everybody to know this. This is not the Davidson County Yadkin River Park. And he hesitated a minute. He said, "This is not the Rowan County Yadkin River Park. And of course, it's not really the Spencer Yadkin River Park. This is the North Carolina Yadkin River Park, and we have the potential, ladies and gentlemen, to have one of the greatest parks in the state of North Carolina. So we're here today to hopefully kick that off and really get you so very excited about it. Paul Mitchell's the chairman now in Davidson County. Many of you know him, and he is ready to move forward, and we are too. So with that, I could go on and on and on. Jeff's giving you the big picture. We had a meeting Friday, and we had about 15 people here from all over that were so excited about this. And after the meeting, Jeff cornered me, and we started talking some details, and I have an announcement to make tonight. After that meeting, I got so excited that I started sharing this great idea with all my good friends. And we've got funds available. There's about $135,000 right now in the bank. We've got a grant coming in. Jeff said, "Jeff, I'm going to blame you for this." I said, "Jeff, what would it, we can start the project now and let it draw out over years or whatever, but what would it take? What would it take to go ahead and start not only just phase 1, but phase 2, and create this beautiful, beautiful entrance to Rowan County, the gateway, as Jonathan said, to Spencer and Rowan County?" He thought for a minute, scratched his head, said, "Ronnie, well, with the grants coming in, with the money we got, we're going to probably need at least another $250,000, $250,000, and we can go ahead and do that." I got so excited, I went home and I started calling some of my friends. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? I stand before you here tonight to tell you we now have verbal pledges for the Rowan County Yadkin River Park of a minimum of $125,000. We went to Friends of Rowan, and you have in front of you an envelope which gives you just a basic review of what Friends of Rowan is. They will agree to match those funds. 125, 120. We now have an additional $250,000, which we can use to not only start but hopefully finish most of what Jeff has said tonight. I invite you to get excited. I invite you to get energized. And if you're not energized already, everybody's got the Energizer Bunny battery. I bought every one Food Line had. Now, I got all off the shelf, and 2 of them are not Energizer Bunnies, but you got 4 batteries. The rest of them only got 2. But it's the Energizer Bunny. So everybody here is going to leave here so excited, so proud to be a part of Spencer in this project. And I am so proud to work with these great people. Jason's in the back. I want to thank Jason. Buddy, listen to this. After the meeting Friday, we got 2 checks. One was in memory of Buddy Geddes.
Oh, that's one.
And another one was from Davidson County for Rowan County. So I think, and we haven't even really asked for funds yet. We haven't even had a fundraising campaign, but it will happen. I'm a dreamer. I'm a member of the Dave Treen Dream Team, and this dream will come true. God bless you. Let's get behind it. Let's support it, and let's make it happen. God bless you. Thank you,
Give
Joe.
Mr. Smith a round of applause.
Thanks, Ron.
That's hard act.
Well, I will say, I am excited, and I've been excited about this project.
Sort of a dull presentation.
However, I gotta say, the enthusiasm that Ronnie shows, I'm gonna have to step my game up, for sure. Mr. Smith, thank you so much. We appreciate the generosity and your time that you've invested in this, and reaching out to other donors, and your energy. Yes, we appreciate it. This is fantastic news.
It sure is.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right.
So, Mayor, I would like to ask, in sort of in closing, if we could have a few moments to invite comments from the public, and so we can include that in the application, and certainly let those folks know what people are thinking about in this community. And if the board has comments,
Okay.
we would include that in the
Very
application
good.
as well.
So we will open it for public comment, for a public hearing on the grant pre-application. for support of the project. I will just remind folks, as Mr. Morris mentioned, this is a pre-application process for the grant. They have to then invite us to actually submit the application. So it's a little bit of a different process, but the more support that this project has and input from the public, the better. And so with that, we will first open it up for public comment, in a public hearing format. So if there's anybody in the audience that would like to come forth and say a few words, we would welcome that at this time.
So we've already heard from Jason. Ronnie, I assume you're for this, is that correct?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Very good. At this time, I will open it up for board members if there are any comments you want to make regarding the project.
I think this is long overdue. And I've spoken with Joe about it a couple of times. My only trepidation about it is the fact that our new owners of the Yadkin River Basin, that whole area, as you well know, in the hard rains that we've had over the last couple of years, a lot of the work that went into the Davidson County side got damaged because of the flooding. And it's only going to get worse. And I think the other board members have heard me talk about this. But sooner or later, someone is going to have to say, you know what, we need to clear all those bridge abutments of logs. We need to dredge, get back to dredging that area of the river properly like they used to do years ago. Otherwise, Danny Patterson would probably back me up on this. Otherwise, you're going to have continued filling in of sedimentation, filling in from debris upriver in that area. And if you travel across the bridges and look over toward I-85, you will see a growing pile of tree logs that are gathering along that abutment. And if it's not addressed sometime during this process, when our parks are that park area is being developed, you're going to have more and more severe flooding as a result, until somebody finally says, you know what, we need to do something about this and continue the upkeep so that it does not damage any further any of the construction or the park areas that are already there. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Yes, Ms. Sledge.
Mr. Mayor and members, I grew up in Rowan County, but I moved to Davidson County and lived there for 40 years. I actually lived on property that joined the Yadkin River, and moved back to Rowan County in 2018 and bought a home here in Spencer. I will say that I was terribly disappointed when Spencer and Rowan County had the opportunity to do something about the Wilcox Bridge and decided not to. I was so happy to see Davidson County do what they've done over there, and I am delighted now to see that Rowan County and Spencer are doing something on our side of the river, because I think it's an opportunity that has been long overdue. It's been, that property down there has been an eyesore for a number of years, and I'm just really excited about it. I wish I had $100,000 to give you. Unfortunately, I don't, but. But I'm very happy to see the progress that's being made here, and look forward to being able to take my little dog down there and enjoy the Rowan side of the park.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Sledge. Other comments from the board? Ms. Sechrist.
I taught history for years over at North Rand Middle School, over 30 years, probably about 40 years. And one thing I always taught my students was about the Sapona Indians and John Lawson's visit to Rowan County, and we read the primary sources of what he wrote. And I think it's just wonderful that this is going to be such an educational opportunity for students all over this county and Davidson County, not only in history, but also for environmental education. So I'm thrilled. I think this is a wonderful educational opportunity for our students here in this part of the North Carolina. Well, really all of North Carolina, because I envision field trips coming in from all over North Carolina for this.
Thank you, Ms. Sechrist. Other comments? All right, then I will say just a few words. As many of you know, water is my livelihood. I deal with it every day, and it's a very important part of my life and my work, and really kind of my passion in life is focused around water resources. So when we have an opportunity like this, as a town of Spencer, who we can claim that we are the only community with riverfront, only town or city with riverfront property in Rowan County, we need to capitalize on it. What I will say is we are seeing more and more water used as a recreational opportunity, as an economic development tool, and just frankly a way of life for a lot of people. We are incredibly blessed by the water resources that we have. Do they have challenges? Yes, as Charlie did not like that. But we do have challenges with our water resources, as Mr. Morgan alluded to. But what better way for us to be stewards of that water resource than to be right there investing in projects like this to provide green space, to help preserve those water resources, and also to make people aware of how important they are. A lot of us that don't spend time near water often forget the importance of it. I say that my life revolves around water, where the fact of the matter is every one of our lives revolve around water. We can't survive without it. And so it's a basic necessity, but it's also a wonderful opportunity for mental well-being, for physical fitness, opportunities to engage. And I'll tell you, I mean, it's satisfying for me being able to go out to the river park and take a kayak out there, or to take my boys fishing out there. What a great opportunity. Those are times I'm going to look back on later in my life and be appreciative that I had that resource right there to be able to spend time with my children. So I think this is a great opportunity. It's a great project. What I will say is Mr. Smith and his organization, they are giving us the kickstart that we need. I think our board has talked, this is not just the project for Spencer. This is the start of a much larger project. And I'll go ahead and say it tonight. Joe was terming what we're trying to do in Spencer with our greenway and our bikeway and the expansion of Standback Forest and a park in Park Plaza. He was calling it the Green New Deal. But I'd like to announce tonight, that it's not a Green New Deal. We've heard of Spencer being called Big Green Nation in North Rowan. This is a big green deal for Spencer. And it is. We can celebrate this. It is a big deal, and it's a big green deal. And so, Mr. Smith, thank you for your dedication and your commitment and the work that you've done. I appreciate our board's enthusiasm for this project. I'm excited. I'm not going to jump up and down, but maybe one day you'll catch me out there. And I will also say, I did pass out for each of you, and we have it in our out in our lobby as well for citizens that might come by. I do want to make a plug. Rowan Creek Week is happening in August, and there's some information you can find out about it online. But on August the 22nd, we're doing a joint event with Davidson County and the Yadkin River Keeper. It's going to be a whole day basically out there at the river. The Pedal Factory in Salisbury is going to be doing a bike ride from downtown Salisbury out to the river, which one day will actually be a bikeway, hopefully. And so they're going to do that, and then there's going to be a cleanup out at the Yadkin River that the Yadkin River Keeper is putting together, and then around 5 o'clock or so we're going to have an educational program where I will be speaking and Davidson County will be speaking, talking about the Yadkin River Park, talking about our plans, and it's exciting to know we're going to have even better news to share at that event than we thought even last week we would have to share. So I encourage y'all to come out. If you like kayaking, after the presentations at 7 o'clock that night, there's a sunset paddle that'll be happening out there at the river. So again, I'm just incredibly thrilled with this opportunity and this project, and I'll commend our board too for the vision and foresight you have in carrying this forward. And I'll make a point. We recognized Buddy Gaddis earlier tonight. Mr. Gaddis was actually instrumental many years ago in getting the discussion kicked off with this. And I think it was to his disappointment that we weren't able to move forward with this project sooner. But what a great way to recognize him and being able to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments at this time? All right, with that, we will close the hearing. We will move forward with our agenda. All right, the next item is item 9. Consider receiving an update regarding the Cabarrus Rowan NPO staffing. It's attachment 5 in your agenda. Mr. Franzese.
Thank you, Mayor Williams and members of the board. Tonight, we just want to provide an informational item to you with no action necessary, but seeking board consensus on this. Of course, the town of Spencer is one of the members of the Cabarrus Rowan MPO, or Metropolitan Planning Organization. Those are federally required organizations that allow highway projects to be planned using the federal and state dollars. And so, of course, you're familiar with that organization, and that there's a technical advisory committee, and Alderwoman Hovis is the member, and Mayor Williams the alternate of the advisory committee, and there's also the technical coordinating committee, and Public Works Director Joe Taylor is the member, and I'm the alternate to that committee. The TCC group, the staff level, has had some initial discussions that the City of Concord has initiated. That's because the City of Concord is the lead planning agency for the Cabarrus Rowan MPO. So they have the responsibility to actually make this organization happen. And they receive federal dollars to fund about 80% of it. And then the members cover the local costs of staffing the Cabarrus Rowan MPO. The City of Concord, for about the last 20 years or so, has contracted out the staffing for that organization. And they've been exploring whether better value and higher level of service to members can be provided with in-house staff from the City of Concord versus them contracting out for that service. And so the short of it is that there's a few things that the member jurisdictions in their discussions have pointed out could be a benefit from some in-house staff, because the current contract arrangement is providing 2 staff members, basically a technical person and an administrative support person to serve the MPO members, and other MPOs across the state are with in-house staff getting more staff for those dollars. This MPO is actually the last one remaining with this type of contracted arrangement, and it appears that NCDOT doesn't seem to prefer that arrangement anymore with some of the requirements they have for the frequency of redoing the contract. It used to be about a 5-year contract period, and now they're saying the next renewal, which is going to happen about a year from now, will have to be for a 1 or 2 year contract only, not a 5-year. And so with that, over the last months, the City of Concord has been trying to get feedback from members and exploring options. And what they're looking to do is in the fall, bring this up at the TAC and TCC levels for discussion, but they want to have some initial consensus from members on the concept. One of the things they've provided was a staffing model showing, and I'm going to pass this around with some of these details. You can refer to that, but they provided a chart that shows the Cabarrus Rowan MPO staffing compared to others around the state, and what the costs going into that are, and then they've also provided a proposal for how they could staff it in-house for a similar amount of funding, and what that would give you is they believe staff that could give more of a focus, technical focus for smaller jurisdictions. For example, right now the MPO staff, they're able to help with the process of getting projects and opportunities, funding opportunities, and raising awareness. But when it's time to actually plan project, an engineer project. There's not necessarily the technical capacity. The cities and towns and the counties have to do that themselves. And for places like Spencer that don't have engineers on staff, that would be a benefit to have the MPO provide that capacity for us. So they think there will be a gain on that capacity for smaller jurisdictions. Also for advocating with the NCDOT, having folks that can focus on different modes. So this is not just about highways, but it's also about airports and transit and different transportation modes. And then also providing some capacity for tech support and GIS capacity as well.
How is this different from the services provided by COG, Central Iowa Council of Governments, in terms of their planning?
So that's a good question. I think there is some overlap in the types of services that the COG staff could provide, but this is a required organization that has to exist in order to compete for state and federal highway funding. And so this is the mechanism that the Federal Highway Administration and NCDOT has set up for how these projects are prioritized across the region. And so it could be that the city of Concord, for example, unless I'm mistaken, when they're looking at contracting out, it could be that maybe the COG could be a possible contractor. But what they're doing as the lead planning agency, which every MPO has one, and it's typically the largest organization in the MPO, they're the ones that actually receive the dollars and then have to administer all the projects. And so they're electing currently to contract out for staffing to facilitate that. But the legal obligations and the contracts in either arrangement wind up being with the city of Concord in either case.
Me and Peter and Jonathan met in reference to this that you guys have in front of you. I asked a lot of questions in reference to it. Oh, I'm sorry, also Joel Taylor. So we all met in reference to this because I am one of the ones that have been at the meetings, whether it's Zoom or in person. We're getting ready to crank back up with being in person, by the way, at these meetings that's held in Concord. And I will tell you, my only concern is that there was a reason why Concord contracted these people out 20 years ago. They've been, the contract has been out for about 20 years. I don't know if there was embezzlement. I don't know what took place, but it was big enough for it to be where it's at now. Because Concord had it before originally. But if it can take some of the work off of, like when me and Joel was sitting there, off of him, and make it where if Concord is gonna have additional help, which is only 2 more people, by the way, to keep, whether it be Peter or Joel, informed reference to like what's happening to us now, reference to the road out here, and we have to have something said by the end of summer kind of thing. Well, that's something that needed to be brought even not only just to me, but everybody else right away. Now we're here, reference to some information that needed to be put out a while back. If they can do that with the communication and make it better than what we've been doing, then I'm for it. But right now I'm still in the air, and it'll be a consensus thing above us, believe it or not, reference to the decision on this contract, because those MPO meetings are kind of like what Jonathan goes to when he does the mayor at the round table. It's only for mayors and whoever he decided to invite in. MPO is the same way as us elected officials, and we're making the big decisions at that table. So bringing it back in-house to Concord and those folks and handling on their end, it just makes me kind of wonder on the transparency. Because one of the things, too, me and Joel said together, and we said this, that it is kind of funny that, yeah, Concord, if you look at Concord, Kannapolis going all out that way, their roads are always nice and paved and roundabouts and all kind of wonderful things, and we have to keep finding from the lower levels, not even just the ground level, just about underground, before we find out that we need to go ahead and make a decision on what we got to do with ours. So those are the things that I have a problem with reference to this, what he's bringing to us, but what could happen better. There's not enough there for me right now to sit up there and say, oh yeah, I'm for this. I'm saying right now, there was a reason why they did this contract for the last 20 years. They need to provide more than what they're giving right now to take it away from what we have now. I don't see it going any better, but I don't see it doing any worse either, so I don't know. I'm on the fence with it.
And I think all those are good points. I would say too, there was a reason that they decided to contract it out. Similarly, there's probably a reason at this point that they're wanting to take it back in-house. And so, yeah, I think you mentioned 2 additional staff. Right now, they've got 2 people that are contracted to work through this. What this would do is take it up to 4 people to be able to focus. Basically, they're doubling the amount of staff they have dedicated to this. There's these Concord staff. And that was the question that I raised. You know, it's like, all right, well, Concord's taking it in-house as the administrator because they've been tasked to do that by the state and managing they're the agent to manage these funds for the region. So it was kind of a little strange, us being in Rowan County, separate entity, and then Concord, are they gonna focus everything on them? But I think the reality is that they have a legal obligation to represent all of Rowan and Cabarrus County. It's also nice having a former Concord employee that has the connections within that agency to be able to help advocate as well on behalf of our town. You are much more engaged with the MPO because you are the designated representative and probably have a better feel for all of it. You've been involved longer. But I also understand, these type of decisions are business decisions. How can we all make the money go farther for our communities? And what Concord is telling us is this is what they believe they can do to make the money go farther for all of our communities. So.
And that is the part where I'm in questioning. I got a question in reference to, well, what are you going to do better than what they've done?
Mm-hmm.
They need to show and tell us what can they do, because this is a lot of money. This is state money. This isn't just municipalities where we're paying $224,000 for whomever to go ahead and do this. There's a whole lot. There's a bigger picture than Spencer or us elected officials that's sitting at the table that's digesting this information, and they're trying to spit it back out to you managers. There's something bigger than that, and so they need to do like a business plan. There's billions of dollars there reference to these ideas. They need to bring it back to us and do it a little bit better than just saying, hey, we come up with an idea, we're gonna do this. So tell us what you can do better.
When are they proposing to make this change?
So the current timeline is that they are looking to get confirmation from the members this July, by the end of this month. They are looking to, in the fall, talk about this with the TAC and TCC again, but get to the point of starting to look for staff in the spring of 2022, having some sort of overlap in May of June, and the current contract ends at the end of June of 2022. So the July 1 of 2022, the new director would be allowed to hire support staff to continue going forward. And the 2 other points I would highlight are that the city of Concord does have the ability to make this decision. To their credit, they're trying to involve everybody in it. And so I want to make sure everybody understands that in terms of it is a decision for the city of Concord, and they are reaching out and trying to include everybody in the process. They do have specific things that they believe this can accomplish in terms of the level of service. They think with more staff, there could be, I mentioned the types of modes and focuses. They believe, one example, they can assign somebody specifically to pedestrian and bike tasks. That person would have enough time to assist jurisdictions with applications and mapping and all that sort of thing that right now the current one technical person just does not have time to get into. And that's really what it gets down to, and it is as it gets back to the dollars. So the current arrangement is that the contractor out the gate receives a certain sum of money, and then based on tasks that are complete, receive other money. And for the total of what that money is that they receive, and with this one technical person and one support person, that's where the city believes they could just in-house provide more staff to do it.
So what are the actual geographical jurisdictions of the MPO?
It's Cabarrus and Rowan County and all the municipalities within.
And what's their track record of projects inspired in Spencer?
That's a good question that any type of, for example, the NCDOT grant that we currently have that's out there is a project that 8-9 years ago went through the scoring process, and Joe and well, Joe's not here, but Joel, if speak up if you want to chime in on this, but that's an example of the kind of projects that received state funding. But in terms of any type of the growth you see in other locations is likely what's seeing some of the focus of funding. So I believe all the funding that the MPO is talking about is either new facilities, new roads, resurfacing, widening. So a lot of it has to do with where you're seeing the growth driving versus the maintenance type needs, if that makes sense.
Well, I on some occasions I've been through Concord and seems like their roads are pretty well put together. The road signage and stuff like that. And we still have areas in Spencer where we don't have sidewalks. Our roads are in generally in pretty bad shape. In some places. So it would seem like we could use some additional focus.
Sure.
Here in Spencer from this agency, and if it means whether it's support staff or that's directed with a mission to making sure that Spencer gets some attention, I would support that. So I don't know if Concord. I mean, when you say Concord, you're saying Concord doesn't need us to say yes or no to whether we agree with what they want to do as far as in-house staffing, but they would like our input. So I'm saying as part of our input, why can't we get some staff members that are in tune with some of the particular needs for Spencer, and we keep groveling around for funds to fix our streets. What's that fund called? The Power Bill Fund, and we keep running out of. We think that we may run out of money for that, but if they have a way of directing more dollars towards the town of Spencer, in support of Power Bill and the stuff that we're trying to do, then I would be in support of that.
And another just thing to keep in mind is that the MPO's purpose is really about the relationship between the local governments and NCDOT. It's about NCDOT's facilities. And so, if you see another jurisdiction and you have a perspective on their facilities, it may be you're seeing city facilities versus state facilities. And so just keep that in mind, because some of the needs across the two counties vary from place to place, but what this agency is tasked with, and all the ones across the state and across the country, is prioritizing state highway projects.
But to that point,
Yep.
us advocating and that group advocating at the state level for additional funding for Highway 29 here, for Oakwood Drive, Charles Street, those state maintained roads, for a new intersection or interchange off of I-85 in the northern part of the county. Those sorts of things are the type of things that the MPO can advocate for. And I will say, Peter, it does kind of surprise me in this day of digital meetings, the Concord, it was great that they engaged managers and MPO representatives. It's kind of surprising that they didn't, at the same token, do some type of webinar that municipal board members could have participated in to outline why they're wanting to do this.
And I think that's to come. I think this is, what they were wanting to do is start where they did, make sure we were able to get all of you up to speed and then continue the conversation at the TAC level.
Well, and I think it's going to be important, that they provide those type of a webinar just to explain what they're wanting to do and why and what it will look like, so that all board members, if they choose to participate digitally, can. To that end, I also think it's going to be very important, to Bob's point, that going forward, if they move forward with this, that one of those staff members is solely dedicated to municipal outreach and really working to reach out beyond just the MPO delegates, to reach out to our board and other boards to find out what are our priorities for NCDOT projects in the area, and then work to advocate for those.
And I can promise you, whenever they get ready to have that meeting, I will make sure that is said. Because that is the biggest thing on this idea, is they need transparency and they need communication to both you and Joel, the people on the lower level in different jurisdictions.
So the people who are the contractors now, they've been doing this for 20 years for the city of Concord. Is that correct?
Yes.
Am I getting that feel? So what kind of credentials are the staff members that they're going to need if they do take it in-house? I mean, are they just go turn around and hire these guys instead of having a contract with them?
I can't answer that, but it could be that the current MPO director on a contract basis could be interested in being an MPO director employed by the city of Concord. But I could see that there would be an overlap in qualifications and all of that. But I don't know where that will go. The other staff members, I think and you can see on the attachment some of the job titles they had listed in terms of, they noted that they would look at a planner, an executive assistant, a senior planner, and a manager, which would be the director role. So I think they're looking for some technical planning, GIS, potentially engineering expertise, but
I mean, it could even be somebody that's had previous DOT experience that's worked within the department, right? I mean, I think that could even be a great thing, somebody that's connected and knows how to work that system.
And what they also said is they're not just wanting to involve the member jurisdictions in this discussion, that if it were to move forward, they would involve the members in the hiring of the director in that process, they would reach out to MPO members for annual feedback on performance evaluations, and they do recognize the need to keep everything transparent. So they've specifically pointed that out so far in their discussions.
So I will point out, one of the things that stood out to me when Peter provided this information was, if you look just solely at the numbers, if you look at the staff, it's on the next to last page, the number of staff with comparable MPOs in North Carolina. The Concord, the Rowan MPO has 2 staff. They're contracted. They're the only group in the state that has contracted staff. And if you look at the numbers of everybody else, every other MPO has at least 4 staff members. If you look at the amount of funding and spending for FY21 for the CRMPO, it's $444,571. So it's, you know, it's right in line with both the Gastonia and the Burlington spending amounts. And if you look at Gastonia and Burlington, or even Jacksonville, who's only spending $353,000 a year, they all have 4 or more staff. And so, you know, to me, that tells me you're not getting as much for your dollar when it comes to staffing and attention as some of the other MPOs in the state, if you just look at it from the bottom line. But like Ms. Hovis, I share a lot of the same concerns that she does, because I think there are a lot of unknowns out there, right? So any further feedback? I think it is maybe asking a lot for us to have general consensus tonight, given that we've just kind of been introduced to it. But again, as Peter indicated, this is a situation because Concord is the contractual agent. The Federal Highway Administration and North Carolina DOT basically confers upon them the authority to manage this program, so they could do it without us, technically. And I think we've talked tonight, there's some merits of keeping the current arrangement, there's some merits of changing it. So I'll leave it to the board, what your pleasure is tonight moving forward, or Peter, what direction you have for the board.
Again,
So, how soon do you need to know?
the city of Concord has requested any feedback, confirmation. The key confirmation is whether a TAC member, which would be you, is okay with proceeding with this process. That was the feedback. They want to know that by the
Okay, well,
end of
If
July.
that be the case, I'm okay with it. Like I said, I've been the one going now, pushing on 4 years. I'm okay with it. We do need the additional help. We do need the communication. Like I said, it took me sitting down, it's not just Sharon coming up with it, Alderwoman Hovis. I got it from the ground level. I got it from the people who have to deal with it, and that was like people like Joel and Peter. So, and got it from my engineer mayor. I mean, so that's where I'm at with it.
I think maybe the request from the feedback, though, should be that, you know, it's not without some question.
Sure.
And we would like additional follow-up and, you know, to bring us along in the process, because we are partners, so that we can fully understand.
And we
the
are kind of
changes.
hitting them pretty hard, reference to something they're probably like, even Sam sitting here looking like a deer in headlights, but anyways. So,
Well, I just, you know, years and years ago, I worked in the planning department for COG. I was a cartographer, and I knew that this was one of the things that they were involved with, and that's why when I looked at this, I saw some sort of duplication, and that's why I was curious as to, you know, how it differed.
either way it goes, they got to bring this back before everyone else anyways. This is just us seeing, getting a feel for it and what they think of Spencer. But it's not a decision that really needs to be made tonight, since we just hit them on the head with it tonight.
If they need feedback from you by July the 30th, then we need to say that you feel that we're on board with it.
I'm only
with some
on board with
questions.
it if this board is on board with it. I know I've been the one going, but I'm on board. I'm all about what you guys think. It always will be that way. It's not just my decision. So, y'all need time to get back and think about it, then we'll think about it. Just hit you with it.
Do that. The other direction could be that the TAC member is generally comfortable with it, and we have questions though, and we would like some additional follow-up. I think that's good feedback for them to, you know, express that they probably do need to hold a webinar or something like that they express to any board member that wants to participate.
Philip Graham mentions that in regards to the level of staff service, the addition of more staff creates a structure. I'm looking at the last page. Creates a structure of focus areas. So we want to let Mr. Graham know that we would like to be considered one of those focus areas.
Certainly.
Peter, do you have what you need?
I do, thank you.
Okay. Thank you all. Thanks for the good discussion. Ms. Evans, thanks for being our representative. All right, departmental reports. Start with Mr. Harris and our planning report.
All right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'll keep my report fairly brief, but I did want to actually just touch on what's been a recurring theme during my monthly reports. The number of permit applications that I've been receiving has just really gone through the roof. Just since the returning from the July 4th holiday, I've received applications for 7 new single-family homes in Spencer. And so that's really just in that period very, good for Spencer. I think it shows that developers are looking to invest in our neighborhoods, that our neighborhoods are filling out with new infill development. And as part of that, what I have been working on recently is getting our developers acquainted with the new Spencer Development Ordinance. As y'all are aware, on July 1st that came into effect, and so moving forward, any building or land use in Spencer will be have to be in compliance with the new ordinance. What I'm doing to sort of facilitate that process in a coherent way is, instead of just providing a link to the full document to our homeowners and property owners and developers, I have been promulgating some official guidance, fact sheets, worksheets, and also updating our permit forms. Whereas in the past we had, let's say, one zoning permit form, I've started breaking that apart. So now if you have a fence project, you'll just fill out a fence permit. Or if you have a small single-family residential project, you'll get a permit form that's tailored to that, and you'll get guidance and fact sheets related to that. What that will do for the town moving forward is it simply makes the permit review process more efficient, and it provides staff more time to focus on long-range planning and these community building projects like the community garden and things like that. As part of this, and I don't want to steal James's thunder, but we have been working together on getting our new code enforcement and permitting software up and running. And so what that means is, behind the scenes, we will have a shared platform to upload all of our permit information, so that way if James is out in the field and he sees a new building under construction, he can type in the address and see if there's a permit on file for that. And that really, even just getting started in the last week, has helped us keep our communication really to a high level. And it reduces the need for him to come back and check the property file, because he can just see PDFs now out in the field. And so that's really good. And as part of that, we will also have, I've mentioned before, a new permit portal, so that if you don't want to do a paper form, a developer can submit everything electronically, even possibly electronic payments. And so in general, what we're seeing is, as we implement the new ordinance, we're sort of pulling ourselves up into the 21st century so that we can facilitate that in a better way. I did want to also just touch on a few other things. We have received, we've been dealing with a couple of vacancies on our boards and commissions for the last couple of months, but I do want to report to you that we had a great meeting, me and Jacqueline Jensen, who's the chair of the HBC, with a applicant to join the HBC. I think he's going to be a really good fit. We had a sit-down formal interview, and I do anticipate on submitting that application to y'all at your meeting next month. We also have pending a application for the planning board to join one of our current vacancies in the ETJ. So it's very important that we have ETJ representation on our boards, particularly if there are any ETJ-related planning projects that come before the board. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that the CAC has voted to recommend adoption of a new facade grant program. And so what that means is at the next month's meeting of the Board of Aldermen, y'all will be considering adoption of that program. It's currently budgeted at $10,000, but I actually can't remember if I provided you this update. We did apply for a Duke Energy grant. So if we get that, we would be adding an additional $20,000 to our facade grant program. Fingers crossed, but that would bring our overall facade budget to $30,000. So I will update y'all if we do get that.
Good.
So that pretty much hits the highlights. Y'all have any questions for me? I know there's a lot going on, so if you want to ask me any questions, feel free.
I got a question, sir.
Yes.
I know you're doing a great job because you're got your hands full and everything else. You are a part-time worker, is that correct?
Yes, that's
How
correct.
many hours are you actually working right now for the town?
It varies per week. I don't want to misspeak, but our arrangement with the Salisbury Community Development
understand.
Corporation is something that we're revisiting.
Okay. Looks like you might need some help. That's the only thing I have a comment on as far as that goes. Seems like you got your hands full, just like Peter's got his hands full as far as that goes. But you're doing a good job. Just hope we don't overwork you as far as that goes.
My response to that will be, I think Spencer is very ambitious in everything that y'all do, and of course, being a small town, it's just a mismatch between what the goal is and what the capacity is, and that's something that I'm sure Spencer will be working towards improving going forward.
Well, Cal, before you leave, then, with you saying that, then it's very much appreciated, all the work that you are doing to be a part-timer, and it shows that you're not trying to nickel and dime the town for every hour or every ounce of what you do. You're actually just doing more than what you paid for, and that's appreciated.
Absolutely. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
We'll make sure Chanukah knows that.
Okay. Appreciate it.
I got to tell you, Kyle, listening to you each month, though, I think you kind of get a kick out of it, too. I think you enjoy this.
Well, I wouldn't have gone to get my degree in planning if I didn't enjoy it.
Thanks for all you're doing.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Kyle? All right. Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.
All right. Our next item is our Code Enforcement Monthly Report. Mr. Osborne.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, fellow
evening.
board members. Hope you're all doing well. I'll give you an update to my case log. I had a total of 76 cases for the month of June. 21 which remain open, abated 54. That's a 71% abatement rate, if you're into numbers. Majority of those were voluntary abatements, which was nice because I don't have to do as much paperwork. And approximately 14 enforced abatements, meaning I submitted or sent a notice of violation out. I had approximately 9 complaints throughout the month. Most of those were phoned or phone in. I think I had 1 or 2 that were face to face. And total cases for the year to date is 264. Submitted a total of 6 work orders in Public Works for mowing abatements, and you can see a majority of my cases are overgrown lots or overgrown property. On the 15th, I did hold a public information session on the rat infestation, primarily on the block of Iredale in South Carolina between 4th and 5th Street. Didn't have quite the turnout that I'd hoped. I think we had 4 residents actually show up, but they took the information to heart, which was nice. Amy Lynn Albertson from the North Carolina Cooperative Extension showed up and gave a great amount of information that really helped those folks understand that what's going on out there is everybody's problem. So we all need to work together to work on that rat problem. So that being said, 411 Iredale, who is the greatest problem on that block as far as nuisance abatement right now, is complying but very slowly. So we're working with him and trying to help him, encourage him to continue to move more and more off his property. Hence the reason for the information session, so as things start to move, hiding places start to dwindle, and the rats will want to move to other places. So I wanted to give the citizens a chance to have information on how to protect themselves if they did move into their homes and their property. So that was the reason for that. The implementation of the iWork software, no worries there, Kyle, you didn't steal my thunder. I think so far during the implementation process it's been quite enlightening at the information process, the information that we can share. And so as we move forward, we're going to see these reports that I'm providing to you will change slightly because they have a report system on there that can generate reports. So these will change slightly. if, we'll try that and see how that goes. If there's something that you want to change, I'll be glad to change it, maybe revert back to this format if that be the case. But as of right now, our launch date is projected August 24th. It could be earlier, depending on how our implementation goes. And that's going to be based upon how we feel about where we're at for implementation. One thing I'd like to bring up on that is that there's been, it's been brought to my attention through the iWork staff that what we could do is put a coming soon button on our webpage in preparation for this to launch, so for the citizens can actually see it and possibly open it up and get acquainted with it. It'd be basically a dummy site that they can go to and practice going through and see what it's like. It'll be for both permit and code, but that's something we're looking at doing right now to kind of help bring that to people's attention. In addition, on National Night Out, I'm going to participate in that on August 3rd, and I intend to bring this information forward with information sheets to the citizens to kind of further advertise our new systems moving forward. And so that way, if they need to make a complaint, they go through our system, or if they need to submit a permit. That's the plan moving forward right now. And lastly, on my highlights is on 114 Lexington Street. I did have one seized dog. So animal control was able to seize that animal, and it is in the shelter right now, getting all the health care needs it needs. And if it goes up for adoption, it should be going up as early this week. It could be up to a year pending court case. So just thought I'd bring that up. Pending any questions?
In regards to that 411, was any treatment done for that situation over there in regards to the rat situation?
In regards to putting out poison and that type of, the town did not put anything out to kind of push back on the rats in that manner, and we did not do that. That's what the information session was for, to kind of help the citizens realize that they're responsible for those their own needs within rat infestations. As of right now,
we're waiting for the owner to try to do some abatement himself, or what?
Right. The idea was to kind of give them information so they can start putting poison out in blocks and bait stations on their own property and cleaning up in preparation for the cleanup on that property, so that'll reduce the population and take away hiding spots. So if they do move, they won't move into their property.
And my understanding, Mr. Osborne, is that property owner is slowly but surely beginning to remove some of the nuisance material that may be contributing.
He is. He's just not moving as fast as I would like them to move. He still has time to work with it to get it clean. At the rate he's going right now, he's not going to make his deadline, the minimum deadline. So I anticipate, I won't speak for J.D., it's not here at this time, but I think he's looking to move to ordinance to abate.
Okay.
If this doesn't get cleaned up in accordance with the codes.
Okay. Ms. Sledge.
I did have a question. We had gotten some information from a citizen complaint about 802 4th Street with old tires and mosquitoes being a problem. Has that been taken care of?
As of right now, they have complied with every request to clean up their front porch and anything in the backyard that I've asked them to do to date, so far.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Other
I
questions?
did have something. You work with the police department on the remedial program for the landlords, right? Is that you?
Right. Code and police work together with a remedial action plan. Yeah.
So, is there a way that, and Peter, this will involve you as well, if there's a way that we can come up with something that makes it where those letters that we receive as board members, that the public, the people who are concerned about this remedial program can know that there are things being done by you and the others. They just don't know that it's being done because only we know. And I know that you can't give out that kind of information just because, truthfully, it's not our place to expose who's doing bad here and there, just like when you're reporting the stuff that you're reporting to us now. But at the same time too, that remedial program needs to be known somehow or another publicly, that people know. I don't know if you say something at our meetings to let them know, like what we got in our emails, that there was 2 cases kind of thing. Something that can be known publicly though, because we know. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And I don't know if that's a question for Chief James or even JD's to kind of answer those questions. I don't know how to answer that question that you have. I think there is a need to kind of bring that up so that way some people understand that there are properties that are not being ignored because there are landlords out there that need to be kept in line, in my opinion. But it's a I don't know how to explain it. There's a way to bring it forward, but I'm not sure how to do that.
That's something we could definitely look into and see what the appropriate mechanism is for that.
And you know why I'm saying this, right? We do receive the letters. We just can't respond to the letters that we are receiving. But to say it publicly, yes, these things are being handled by you guys. So they just need to know that, like what I'm doing right now. I'm letting them know, the ones who are sending the letters, that you guys are on it. You know what I'm saying?
And you bring up a great point, because if we can somehow communicate that to the public, the reality is we have a process that we've established. And it's a legal process, and we follow that legal process to the letter of the law. And, you know, while for some people it may not move as quickly as they'd like it to, we are following our processes and we are dealing with these issues. So.
And I would say the police department probably deals with a lot more of this than I do from a PD standpoint. They probably have more calls out to specific places because of the type of people moving into these homes. I tend to have less because of code might be just one minimal housing issue, where they might have, say, 3 disturbance calls out there in a week's time frame. That changes the game on the landlord. So they have more, I think, in my opinion, the police has more oomph on that to kind of push on these landlords than merely the code by itself. So the two of them kind of work together in concert to try and help these landlords to say, hey, I need to put good people in there and take care of my property. And so mine is more a augmentation to the police, in my opinion, because I just have fewer cases.
Do understand? I know you, and you know I would know. I mean, there's a civil part of it and there's a criminal part. All I was saying is just if there's a way for Peter or someone to make sure that is known that you guys have already got 2 cases that you just handled this month. Yeah. And if they could say that out loud publicly, that would make them know that you guys are on it. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. I'm not trying to
publicizing the good work that we're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Service. Any other
questions?
Comments or questions from the board?
Not for him, but I meant to say when Kyle was talking about the fact that these two are melding their software together and getting information, that was one of the original things I envisioned that would be happening for this board, and I'm hoping that other agencies are also able to match, to get involved with that as well. So if it starts with you two, I can see the connect right there. I'm just hoping that other agencies are also able to wire in at the same time. So good, but it's a good report. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I just want to say publicly, Kyle, that I truly appreciate everything that you do, even though you're part-time. You help me tremendously. So I just want to say that openly. Thank you.
Kyle, how much did you pay him to say
that? They'll settle up later.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Thank you very much. All right. Next on our list is our police department report.
So we have Sergeant Leonard with us tonight. Chief James is on vacation this week.
Very good. Good evening, Sergeant.
Good evening. How are y'all today?
Good.
I think Chief James, of course, is on a much-needed vacation, and he has told me that y'all have the report for the call logs and stats in front of you. I'm here to answer any questions you may have to the best of my ability about anything that's going on in the department. Or
the National Night Out, do you have any of that information, or is that something I need to be asking Peter?
Yeah, I think pretty much every meeting that's taken place, we've both been present for, so Absolutely. It's going to take place on the 3rd. We've worked in conjunction, of course, Peter. Stacy's been in with us. East Spencer, Chief O'Brien had came over and talked to us. We had a meeting with Chief James where he was able to come. And so far so good. We've got a lot of entrance. We were able to secure the Transportation Museum is going to be a big benefit. They're going to help us a lot. They've offered us their property to be able to do hay rides, and they're going to provide us with old patrol cars, the old highway patrol cars to bring over. We've secured some show cars from NASCAR we're going to bring down. Mike File, our detective, has been able to secure us a seatbelt simulator to bring for educational, to be able to teach people about properly wearing seatbelts. I think we've got some DNA kits coming. Add to what I know you were in the meeting, I can't remember now. We've got some funding from local government, Federal Credit Union, I think, pitched some money in. So I believe it's going to be a really good event. I actually spoke with Food Line this morning, and I'm waiting to hear back from them about what they're going to be willing to do to help donate to the event. So I think it's going to be a really good event, and I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be good for the
So
town.
now I have to ask you about the East Spencer end, because I'm actually over the reserves and nobody's talked to me.
And we can give you an update too.
Yeah.
Because Peter and I had the opportunity yesterday to meet with their new administrator, Michael Douglas, as well as Mayor Mallett. They were to be discussing that last night, I think, at their board meeting about collaborating on that. So they seemed interested. Hopefully we'll be able to have more to report on that here in the next several days, getting confirmation on that and being able to work together on that.
Okay, so here's the next question then. For the officers that are coming over that will work, is Spencer going to be paying them, Peter?
I don't know. It didn't sound, based on our conversation yesterday, that was going to be a concern for East Spencer. But, you know, it sounded like they were thinking of a few officers, 2 or 3 officers, perhaps.
I know I'm going to be one of them, so I'm wanting to
So-
make sure that, because I'm not going to come over here, because that next week, East Spencer will have an event. And if that be the case, then Spencer's going to need to do the same thing that East Spencer's doing. If we got to come over here and work for free, then I expect that you don't want the milking the cow for free thing kind of thing. You're going to reciprocate. I'm just kind of trying to figure this out now.
So our goal was to bring both communities together for an event, and that's something we can continue to discuss with East Spencer for sure.
We've laid it out in front of their town management and
I understand that. I mean, it's not East Spencer's place to try to pay the police. It's our event, Spencer's event, so why aren't we gonna?
well, and that's what we've stressed to
We
Mayor
do that for
Mallett
North Rowan High School.
And Mr. Douglas is, it's not Spencer's event, it's East Spencer and Spencer if they're wanting to take part in it, but it's a collaborative event. So we did make that clear. You know, one of the things they asked us was about, you know, even funding donations, and we said we weren't expecting anything like that, but, you know, we were providing venue and, you know, that sort of thing. I think they're interested in the collaboration, so, I mean, ultimately, we've put the opportunity out there for them, and we'll see if they are agreeable and what they come back as far as wanting to coordinate or needing support-wise.
Okay.
But I would say, the event the following weekend, I would say any of us that can participate in that in East Spencer would be great.
Well, if you guys
What
are
day to say
collaborating,
it?
they're doing like that jazz thing like they did
Oh,
last year.
okay.
Remember how we had the big thing and all the people and
Okay.
all that?
So that'll be the
So-
7th or the 6th, right?
I think maybe the 14th was the
Weekend
date.
after
Yeah,
that.
it's the-
Yeah,
it's
so it's a week and a
next
half later, yeah.
Uh-huh. So it's the next week.
Yeah.
So where I'm going with this, if we're gonna collaborate, we're gonna talk about this, I want it to be even on both sides. I don't want it to be where you guys, we have an event over here in Spencer. I want it to be even too for East Spencer. And Sarge, you just coming on the back end, I apologize.
Yeah, that's fine.
But if you're gonna be helping reference to this, then I need it to be reciprocated for East Spencer. It shouldn't that they come over here and help us. We need to be going back over there helping them.
In the
Because they have an
community.
event that next week as well.
We're also hoping that all the officials can be together, welcoming people and community members from both towns, getting to know each other. That's the goal.
That
We
sounds
hope.
good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
some
why
of
I'm
us
trying to
know
make sure
them
we do
already.
it both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I don't know if you've thought about this, but at a lot of the night out things that I've been to in the past, you know, a healthcare company has provided some support. So that, you might check with Novant if you haven't spoken with them.
And I'm not 100% sure, I can't remember from a meeting, but I think that was brought up, and I believe somebody was gonna look into that, yeah. You know, the National Night Out.
Cheerwine's contributed as well.
Yes,
They've
Cheerwine.
already committed.
Mhm.
Yep.
So, I'm looking forward to it, I think it'll be a good event.
Any other questions?
Well, I was gonna ask Chief James, but since he's not here.
Well, I might
don't
can help you, I can try.
Officer Leonard, I don't know. Do you know whether we had any representation at the job fair that the Rowan Economic
I
Development?
do not know, I cannot answer that question, I do not know.
You know, they had 250 job seekers show up over there, people stand in line before it opened to apply for jobs. And there is another one that's being planned for September.
Okay.
So, you know, that would be a good opportunity for us to.
No, I'll
have
definitely pass
some
that along to Chief.
representation.
Okay. Very good. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Sergeant.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
All right, appreciate it. All right, Chief Lanning has our fire department report.
Mayor Board, how are you this evening?
Good, how are
Very
you?
good.
I have wrote a couple notes on mine of some additions that I while sitting back here, I think would be beneficial to bring forward to you guys. The first thing I want to hit on is the insufficient response in June. I just want you guys to be rest assured that hopefully that will be the last of which. It was a CPR call here in town. It was before we started our 12-hour shifts, and unfortunately it fell after 4 o'clock. I was across the county teaching a CPR class just by coincidence. And so we did not get a truck out the door for that call. We did get personnel on scene. Fortunately, Spencer PD was actually, or I think Officer Leonard was one of the first ones there. So that's just a small, short explanation for that. As terms of equipment, so obviously we're all familiar with the lightning strike. This thing is really loud. We're familiar with the lightning strike. So weekend before last, staff called. The air conditioner at the station had stopped working. Perfect time, middle of the summer. So unfortunately, well, unfortunate but fortunate, that is going to be included in the insurance claim. So HVAC company came out. It was a circuit board had been fried, high voltage incident. They thought we could bypass it to kind of get a temporary fix. They bypassed it. The board they bypassed it to was also fried. So that's totaled, but fortunately that $15,000 expense will be covered under the insurance claim. One addition or one update, I did have listed 2 part-time personnel. As of last week, that is now 4 part-time personnel. So hopefully the days of us being so short-staffed, we're turning that new leaf over and being able to recruit some people. The only other thing that I had, and we've been talking about East Spencer pretty regular tonight, is that we've always been mutual aid with each other. Myself, Chief McBride, Chief Fleming, we've kind of sat down, and it would be a huge, I guess, issue for us not to go across the bridge, then return the favor at any opportunity. Historically, again, I think due to some difference in opinions, that has not been the thing. It's kind of we want you, we'll call you. Don't show up without that. My feelings, obviously Hendricks is kind of the staple to eat around here. I love it, love supporting them. But East Spencer's there pretty often. They kind of ride through town. They come and train with us. So we kind of extended that olive branch, myself to them and them to us, that if they're in town, we're obviously at the station or kind of at Food Line, we hear a call, we kind of just add ourselves to it. That's been very beneficial thus far. They were at Food Line. We had a CPR at Food Line. So obviously just kind of continuing to mend those relationships from mutual aid departments at the end of the day due to our lack of or low staffing levels, we have to rely on them. So other than that, ISO's in 3.5 weeks. So
I will say it's good seeing East Spencer trucks over here.
Absolutely.
I've seen them at Hendricks. Saw them out eating at Roger Dogs and got to talk to them a little bit
Yes.
the other day. So
absolutely.
Appreciate you mending fences and collaborating.
We try.
That's what we should be doing.
Most definitely. So do y'all have any questions or concerns for me? Awesome.
All
If
right.
anybody wants to
Keep
assist
up
in
the
this
good
ISO
work.
inspection,
Thank you very much.
I will hand you the packet. So,
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck with
Thank
that.
you.
All right, next is our Finance Department report.
Public Works?
No,
Oh, I'm sorry, Public Works. Thank you.
Joe's already there?
Joe's ready.
You gonna get finance on?
No,
Come on.
no, I'll pass on that. I'll let Miss Faith take care of that one. No doubt. Good evening, Mayor and members of the board. Just a couple updates to my report, since it's been a couple weeks. Week before last, the brush truck went down for a whole week. We had to find a part for it. It was back up and running last week, but being a 4-day week, we got the majority of it, but if you see a few piles here and there, by the end of this week, it'll be caught up. So, I think the guys got pretty much, and they worked hard last week to try to get it caught up, but with a 4-day week, it throws things kind of in a bind as well. So just want to let you know. The stormwater issue on Forestdale has been completed. It is fixed, completed, seed, straw, the whole 9 yards. So it has been done. They did find the major problem being in the street, so they didn't have to go further than that. The pipe had actually dropped from the basin, so that actually fixed that problem. And the road is back up and ready for traffic. So AMT, and no one knows this yet, but as of yesterday, AMT returned my pavement condition survey. I got it yesterday. So I have not had time to go through all of this information, and there's many more spreadsheets to go. But I did want to let you know that it is here, it's finished, and we'll dive into that information and get things sorted. And it's in a pretty good format as far as what I can see so far as what we can read and what we can't. So it should be very easy to work with for the information. The last thing I'll update on is I did send Chris Sloop a message this morning, and he responded, of course, that our extension had been filed for the CCAP. He felt no problems with it whatsoever as far as it being approved, but it's going in front of the board, in front of the Soil and Water Commission on the 21st of the month. So as soon as it goes through, but I wanted to confirm with him that the paperwork had been filed, and we were, and he said it had been. So as far as that updates, that's what I have. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Sure.
Any issues this summer with the 8th Street ballpark?
As far as issues,
Any problems or anything like that?
nothing that I can think of.
Everything in good shape down there?
Yeah,
As far as
yeah, everything's good. I know we're working with Joe and them with the, is it the T-Mobile grant? Is that what it is? We're looking to file August.
There is a T-Mobile has a community-based grant opportunity that is on a rolling basis, and Joe's been looking into that opportunity that could potentially allow some improvements at the ballpark, and it could be August, or it is. I think Joe's still seeking maybe some. I believe that when we worked with the Spencer Cal Ripken folks, they were modest in the request, and we want to make sure we put together a good proposal.
We want to put together a bigger request, because the amount that they asked for, we really want to go after more money than what they were asking. So we need to get with them, and being that their ball league's through right now, we need to make that meeting happen probably this month. But they did have a lightning strike over there.
Did
Is that's what you're asking?
No, I just
All it
kinda-
did was it fried one circuit breaker that they had to fix.
Yeah.
Everything went back to working. So
their equipment as far as that goes?
as far as I know, I haven't heard anything
Did they have insurance on it or anything?
on
Did they have insurance on that claim?
on the claim.
Yeah.
It was less than what the deductible would have
Okay.
been. I think it was about two in the 200 mark.
Okay.
So it was much less than the deductible. So
Okay.
they just fixed it.
I have a question. On the sewer and drains, I know Salisbury City supposedly is supposed to come through and clean them out and everything. But Joel, you know that with all the rain.
Storm drains.
Yeah, the storm drain.
So we
So-
maintain,
I would say on.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to be my question. Storm drains or sewer?
It's gonna be storm drains, isn't it? Which one do we maintain?
we
We do
maintain
the storm drains.
Okay, so it's the sewer one. So
Okay.
Salisbury, Where's Randy on keeping up with coming back in behind on that? Do you know?
I don't know the actual schedule. I do know that Ted has a maintenance schedule that he goes by. And he and Randy working hand in hand. Randy's more with the water, Ted's more with the sewer. So I know he has a maintenance schedule that he goes by to clean out certain problem areas in town. And I'm not gonna speak out of turn because I'm
And you
not
know,
that
the
up
only
on
reason why
sewer.
I ask this is because every year there's always a backup, and it's just because if they're not following that schedule,
Right.
it's going to be the obvious, and you have to come out there to make sure I don't jump on them because it does back up so bad
Right.
in our town. Reference to Salisbury finally getting around over here to handle that.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
can you make sure
Okay, I will.
to call Randy?
Well, I think the
call.
reality too is when they need to be making sure that
Oh, I
that
do. It's
schedule
like
is aligned with
Let me know. I'd like to
what
see
the
that.
cleaning frequency
I'll
on
pay good
those
money.
problem lines really should be.
Exactly, sir.
A lot of times what they'll do is they'll do, every 5 years on non-problem areas, every 2 years on
Right.
ones that are more problems, but there's some that should be cleaned every 6 months
Exactly.
or more frequently.
Or sooner.
Yep.
In some areas, because
if you don't mind, I appreciate that. And
I
I'm
will-
not
I will
saying
check
it
that
just
out.
for the obvious. I'm saying it for the whole thing because we're getting ready to pick back up with this is the season now.
Mhm.
All them hurricanes and whatnot, you know.
Right.
So
Okay.
we can just make sure that we don't have a bad storm and then they're going, oh, well, all your bridges and roads are 7th Street and all these different roads are taken up because they didn't do their part.
Hey, public service announcement though, real quickly. Do not put rags, wipes, or grease, fats, and oils down your drain. Please do not. That's part of what the problem is.
there you are. Very good.
You're not?
Anything else?
Joe,
Yes,
you
sir.
mentioned 7 abatements issued for chronic properties. These are individuals who are not cutting the grass and stuff like that?
Correct. We have a list that's chronic properties. James maybe will speak
Right.
more. Those are properties that were, how many citations were issued the previous year? So they automatically fell into a chronic status to where
Right.
anytime we see that it reaches a certain height, we just mow it. We don't, there's no communication, there's no anything, we just mow it.
So we're the landscaping crew for those
Exactly,
properties.
for those particular properties because they have fell into that situation from the year previous.
Okay, so-
Every year it resets.
Has
So-
the number starting to increase on that we're doing more than we used to?
I don't think, I think they're about the same as, the list decreased how many, James, from last year?
Maybe 2 or 3.
2 or 3 decreased,
Yeah.
the amount of properties from last year.
Okay, so you're communicating with code enforcement in regards to what's gonna be the future status with these properties as far as, I mean, we can't cut everybody's grass, you know. throughout
No,
the
and it's a
whole
certain
town, but-
list.
So, are we reaching out to those owners, and finding out what the situation is and whether it's gonna be maintained
Okay.
every year?
I would say, I'm gonna let James answer his part of it. I just get the
Yeah.
list on my
Okay.
side, so.
Right.
Let me speak to the chronic violator stuff. So basically, the way the code is written, if you have 3 abatements in a year's time frame, for any nuisance abatement, doesn't have to be just for mowing, the town has the ability to put you in what they call a chronic violators list. And the following year, there's generate a list that goes to Public Works, and any time that they see that, they can mow it. Those letters are all sent out, so every time there's a mowing abatement or nuisance abatement, it goes to the property owner. That's on record for the address that's on record through the county. And so the following year, you send out what you call a chronic violator notice to those individuals. They know that anytime that we see it, we can abate it without having to notify them, and that's statute.
Okay, so what's the next point after that? What happens after that? I mean, because if you're talking about, you know, a cycle of roughly every 2 weeks, you're cutting somebody's property. I mean, that can add up to I mean, I pay $100 a month to get my grass cut, which is probably cheap. But I'm cheap. So,
Too cheap.
I mean, but if you wind up doing it every 2 weeks for these properties and year after year after year, is there some point where some further action may be required to get them off that list? Or
Only if somebody, as the property owner, is willing to take care of their property. What happens after that, it goes to a notice of bill. They get the notice of a bill for the cost for the abatement based upon his time on the site, depending how bad it is. And I send them a notice of bill. They have a certain amount of time frame to pay it. If they don't pay it, it goes to a lien.
Okay.
And so that a lot of these properties are collecting liens for being chronic violators.
Right.
And some of them are due to deaths. There's nobody to take care of the property. And some of it's because somebody just doesn't want to deal with taking care of their lawn.
Right.
And they're aware of it. I send them certified mail along with first-class mail to each property owner. So it goes out by the code legally. I've actually spoke to JDs about this because some of these people are deceased with no heirs. And my only recourse is to send it to the address on record. I don't have any recourse. If we're going to charge them liens, I have to do it that way. So unfortunately, some of these people just absorb these. And if somebody wants to purchase these, once it goes up for foreclosure through the county, they pay those taxes and liens. And it's unfortunate, that's just the process that we have. The only other process that we could do is go through a contractor list and use town funds to pay contractors to go out and abate it for cheaper. And then the liens would be less on those property owners. But I don't think that's necessarily the way most people want to go. And that's the only other option, to reduce the cost on those property owners.
Okay.
And take them away from mowing property that they don't have to.
On a weekly basis, Joel, how much time are you spending having to abate properties?
On the chronic, let's see, you only sent what, one this month, two?
I had just sent actually 3.
3, okay,
So-
over and above the chronic. So
Yeah.
we're doing on average 3, and then they're checking the chronics about twice a month during the height of the summer.
So this past month, he did 5 in the very beginning, 2 in the middle of the month, and another 5 at the end.
So, and most of them, now that we keep them down and we don't let them get up here, they can be in and out in 30 minutes. So you figure 6 properties, you're there, you know, over the total of a week, about 3 hours, to mow 6 properties on average. You know, and then he's got several that may come in over and above that, you know, but there hadn't been that many, really, over and above the chronics. There really hadn't been this year.
What is the status on the chronics when we send them the bill? Are we getting payment or typically not?
Typically not.
no, you're not.
Like I said, most of these people are either deceased or they just completely ignore our request to mow the properties or pay it.
Ms. Sledge?
No, I'm just not paying me enough to mow my yard.
And I do try to tell people out in town when I come across them, hey, you might want to pay this because the town's going to charge you a hefty fee if you don't, because we will abate it. And so a lot of people are surprised at how much the town charges. So they get the deer in the headlight look and they go, well, maybe I need to get somebody on that.
It's
So
expensive when you have the A-team cutting your lawn for you.
Yeah.
It's expensive, that is correct.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anything else for Joel?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
all you do.
Yes, sir.
All right, Faith, now. Time for our finance report.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Well, fiscal year 21 has come to an end, but it's not totally over. It won't be over until the auditors come and do their work and do what they need to do. They'll be here the week of August the 9th. They will be here for a week to start with, and I guess if they see the need, they'll come back out. So I'm anticipating them coming. And we've started the fiscal year 2022, the budget's in place, and we are moving right along with that. We did start the talk with Southern Software and Clockwise. I know part of the budget was to, you guys approved to have a time clock system in place, and so we have started that process. Southern Software, they do our financial software, and they will take care of the implementation process for us, and they'll do testing. And between Southern Software and Clockwise, we'll have training that will take place with that. Southern Software, they'll pretty much handle everything for us, which is a good thing. So that process hopefully will just be kind of easy and seamless. I'm sure there'll be some things that will come up, but for the most part, they'll take care of it and we'll just move along with them. And I guess this is on a sad note. Jennifer Mills, who is our part-time office assistant, she was given the opportunity of a full-time job that she could not pass up. And so unfortunately, her last day is July the 16th. And so I guess we will begin the process of posting that position again. Jennifer's been a big asset to the town hall and to the finance team. I will miss her, so she will definitely be greatly missed, and we do wish her best in her future endeavors.
Have we got all our funds in, our taxes and all that?
No, they still roll in all the way up to September, October for sales tax.
Okay.
And
However, the good news is, if you look at what we've already gotten over 100% of what we had budgeted. On
yes.
both ad valorem and sales tax.
And so what we'll do is we'll book entries. There'll be entries that'll be booked for that for fiscal year 21. So that'll continue up until, like I said, when the auditors leave and they're done. But that's all I have. Is there any other questions for me?
Thank you. Questions for Rebecca? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and finally, our library report. Stacy?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good evening. Or good night, whatever it is now.
The library hosted a Hawaiian luau event on June the 1st, and it seemed to be pretty successful. Summer reading camp has started as well, and there was about 118 door count for the month of June for participants. You have any questions?
Questions for Stacy? All right, thank you very much.
Chief Olamua looks very familiar.
Look like the Rock, huh?
Discuss that.
He's kin to the Rock.
Is he?
No. He
Got
wish.
me.
I wish he was.
All right, we are now to our town manager report. Peter.
Thank you once again, Mayor and members of the board. We've discussed a few of the items already that I had planned on discussing tonight, but one thing I will mention is on our website update. Our target date for the launch, the go live, is July 15th. We are still dialing in on the remaining issue is on our domain. We currently have three domains. We have ci.spencer.nc.us, which is a gift from the 90s. We, in our last website iteration, redirected townofspencer.com to that. So we had previously been maintaining those two domains. A few months back in our current new website process, we secured spencernc.gov. And so the goal is that will be our domain going forward, which is consistent with most local governments. As part of that, we have to get control of the old domains for the redirects, especially as it relates to our emails and trying to get everybody on a new email. And that has been a process because the folks who set up those old domains are not here, and we are going back and forth with various groups trying to dial in on that. The latest I heard is that we have a call scheduled on Monday of next week. And so that is putting us a little behind on this July 15th. But other than that issue, we are in very good shape. You can go to spencernc.gov and play around on our site. It'll take you to the splash page that says coming soon, but if you know what you're doing, you can find your way to other pages. And I welcome you to do that. But we have done a lot of work to bring this, and we're close to landing the bird.
Very good. Questions for Mr. Franzese?
Mr. Franzese, I talked to you earlier this week with you and the mayor. Have you worked on that project that I had spoke with you about on the outside sourcing?
I'm sorry, did you ask a question?
Yeah, that was a question.
Okay.
When
Yeah.
I had spoke with you earlier last week on some outside sourcing
Yes.
for hiring, have you been able to look into that? Because you haven't gotten back to me, so I'm asking you now.
Sure. So have found 3 different companies that are performing background searches and trying to get pricing for that, so that in the event we need to do that going forward, we'll have somebody lined up to do that work for us. We're still evaluating the pricing and would be the best to work with. The good news is that we actually have a potential candidate that we had provided a conditional offer to that would add a female officer to our department who has accepted our conditional offer. And so we would actually like to use this service for that candidate. And so we'll be getting that lined up fairly soon so we can move forward.
Thank you.
Yep.
I wanted to thank you for putting the Work in Rowan information on our Facebook page. I saw that you'd done that, so thank you for doing that.
Well, thanks for mentioning that, and I did ask our web developers for the new site to see if we can to add that to our resource list, so folks can take advantage of that, because that is a really good local job search resource.
I was last night looking for some information about the planning meeting, which I didn't realize they were not having in July. But there's somewhere in here that I still found a reference for Troy Powell. So we need to be sure that we're,
Clean it up.
yeah.
That's on the current site.
Somewhere.
The current site is at some point of the process of us doing the work to set up the new site, we found that there actually is, it's like a hidden room of duplicate pages that have the same thing that, so we had some pages that we had been updating these pages, and then there's all this whole other set of other pages that were somewhere else, and anyhow, we're looking forward to the new website.
And that will be the 15th or Monday?
What's today? Today's the 13th, right? So the 15th would be Thursday. So unfortunately, I don't see that we are going to be able to launch on SpencerNC.gov with the redirect. So we could put we're going to have another update call tomorrow morning, actually, with the developer, and I can let you know what comes out of that. But it's 2 things. Like our new site can be ready to launch, but we also have to be ready to redirect our old site. It's almost a 2-stage thing. We could go ahead and launch the new site, but the other part is being able to cut off the old one and redirect the domains from it to the new site.
We're almost there.
Long road to travel.
And Ms. Sledge, I guess speaking of the EDC, I do see we have Scott Shelton here. Scott, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to provide updates for the EDC as part of Peter's report.
Good evening, everybody. How are y'all doing?
Good evening.
Thanks for agreeing to see me. I got a late start today. I'm sorry I missed the first part of the meeting, but wanted to say to the board that I appreciate you adopting this proclamation for Buddy Geddes. I knew Buddy. He was a good man. He was a good mayor. Glad to see the town recognize his contributions to Spencer. Just have a few things for the board real quickly. I know it's a big, long meeting for you guys. Last time I was here, we mentioned the Phase 1 environmental report for the Lamb Fisher property. I'm pleased to say we got that back last week, and they found no what they call recognized environmental conditions on the property. Everything was good. Everything was clear. So that's another attribute we can promote for the property. Also, Withers Ravenel is still working on the conceptuals for the former finishing company site. Hope to have those done in the next few weeks. In regards to other activity, the EDC did send a letter of support to the town to Mr. Morris for the recreational trails grant. We were happy to do that. Hope that y'all end up getting that grant. And then just finally, we did submit the Lamb Fisher property for a project a few months ago. Since our last visit here, it was a food processing operation at 650 jobs. sounds promising, but we're still there in the early stages of that process. And then finally, we also did submit the Lamb Fisher property for a PPE, personal protective equipment project that's looking in the area. That would be about 250 jobs for the selected site. And that's pretty much what I have for this month. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have. And once again, encourage y'all to come to our meetings the second Thursday of the month. The Alderman Sledge always attends faithfully. We really appreciate her being there. So.
Very good. Thank you very much for the update. Always enjoy it when you come with good news, so thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate the board support for our efforts, and just let us know if we can do anything for you.
So thank you for your support. All right. Next item on our agenda is item 13. It's considering resolution 21-011 of intent to change the town charter and set a public hearing. It's attachment 8 in your agenda. And if you recall from our pre-agenda meeting and previous month's meeting discussion, this relates specifically to updates to the town's charter relative to term limits for Board of Alderman members and mayor. And so based on our discussion that we had on Thursday, there is an updated resolution of intent to consider an ordinance to amend the town charter, establishing 4-year staggered terms for Town of Spencer alderman and mayor. And so what I would like to do at this point is read that ordinance or that resolution just so that everyone listening in is aware. Again, this would be we're proposing go to a referendum in November for our voters to decide if this is something that they are interested in. We've heard from multiple folks that it is something that our citizens are interested in. It helps maintain some consistency with our leadership within the town, as well as the staggering term limits ensures that there isn't necessarily a complete turnover in leadership from one election to the next. And there are certainly benefits to that. And so this would take effect with the election in 2023 is when it would actually start. But if it is passed by referendum in the November 2021 election. All right, and so there's a process that Mr. Deese has outlined for us. This would be the start of that process, would be for our board to adopt this resolution to then put before our town through a public hearing and then ultimately a referendum. All right, so the resolution states, whereas members of the Town of Spencer Board of Aldermen and the mayor, collectively the town board, are elected to 2-year terms pursuant to Section 6 of the 1901 Charter, Session Law 1901-109 of the Town of Spencer, and as specifically amended by Session Law 1903-258. And whereas the town board desires to amend the town charter to provide the term lengths for the town board and mayor be increased from 2-year terms to 4-year terms, and that the terms be staggered so that all of the terms do not expire in the same year. And whereas pursuant to General Statute, Section 160A-101, the town board may amend its charter to make various changes to its form of government for reasons allowed by General Statute, Section 160A-101. And whereas changing the term length for members of town board and the mayor and staggering the terms of the board members are reasons permitted by General Statute, Section 160A-101, Article 4. And whereas pursuant to the process for amendment of the town charter as established by General Statute Section 160-102, the town board intends to adopt an ordinance to amend the town charter in the manner described herein. And whereas pursuant to the proposed ordinance amending the town charter, the town board intends to amend the town charter in the following manner. Members of the town board and the mayor would be elected for 4-year terms, and the terms would be staggered so that all of the terms do not expire in the same year. In order to stagger the terms, the mayor and the 3 candidates who receive the highest number of votes in the 2023 election would be elected to 4-year terms. The remaining 3 seats would be filled by those candidates who receive the next highest number of votes, and those members would receive 2-year terms. In the 2025 election and every 4 years thereafter, the member seats who received a 2-year term in the 2023 election would be up for election to 4-year terms, and those seats will be elected to 4-year terms in every election 4 years thereafter. And in the 2027 election and every 4 years thereafter, the mayor and the members' seats who received a 4-year term in the 2023 election would be up for election to another 4-year term, and those seats would be elected to 4-year terms in every election 4 years thereafter. And whereas the town board intends to make any ordinance adopted pursuant to this resolution of intent effective only if approved by the qualified voters of the entire town of Spencer in a special election referendum November 2nd, 2021. And whereas before adopting the ordinance, the town board will hold a public hearing at the pre-agenda meeting on the 5th day of August, 2021, and invites and encourages all interested members of the public to come and speak to the town board about this proposed change to the term lengths from 2-year terms to 4-year terms staggered as outlined above for members of the the Spencer Town Board. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. Pursuant to General Statute Section 168-101 and 102, the Town Board adopts this resolution of intent to amend the town charter by ordinance so that the term lengths be increased from 2-year terms to 4-year terms, and that the terms be staggered so that all of the terms do not expire in the same year. And pursuant to General Statute Section 168-102, the town intends to make any ordinance adopted pursuant to that section effective only if approved by a vote of the people by referendum on the November 2nd, 2021 ballot. This resolution shall become effective immediately upon its adoption. So, with that, are there questions from the board? Is there a motion to approve Resolution 21-011 and set the public hearing for August the 5th, 2021?
Motion.
There's a motion by Mr. Miller. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem. Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? All right, that is approved. And we will now move. We'll invite Mr. Harris forward again. Items 14 through 17 deal with 4 properties that we have received offers. They are town-owned properties that we've received offers from: 108 7th Street, 110 7th Street, 608 South Carolina Avenue, and 308 Kane Street.
All right. So I will give my presentation first, but I want to thank the Rosemans. They will come up and speak after me to provide their qualifications and their intentions for these properties. If it's okay with the board, I'm going to do all 4 properties at once. I'm going to cover the bids on the 4 properties that are items 14 through 17 on the agenda, and then we can hear from the Rosemans. All right, so the first property that we've received a bid on from the Rosemans is the property at 108 7th Street. We have also received a bid for the adjacent property, which is at 110 7th Street. These are both behind the Town Hall building. The bids that we received on both of those are $6,000 from Roseman Real Estate and Construction. The governing board has a couple of options as you consider the bids on those 2 lots. You could either decide to go ahead and adopt the resolution to initiate the upset bid process. You could negotiate the price, or you could reject those bids. I do want to say that for both the 2 properties behind Town Hall, we have already received the $300 deposit for each of those 2 properties. The North Carolina general statutes are pretty clear about how this process works. In 160A 269, it establishes the procedural requirements for conveying real property by negotiated offer and upset bids. I do want to point out, and this is something that I did not clarify last month, at any point during this process, the board has the freedom to reject any and all bids. Even at the end of the process, you can reject the highest bid. So that's something that will be clarified in both the public notice, and it actually is, I believe, stated in the resolution. So don't feel that your hands are tied at any point during this process. So for both of the properties behind Town Hall, both of those are valued at $15,000. They are all zoned in the new residential Main Street Transition District, which is the RMST district, for which the principal use of land is single-family residences as well as 2-family homes and multifamily residences. Both are approximately 0.2 acres, and the 2025 land use plan designates both properties for residential development. Both of those lots behind Town Hall are 50 foot and with a depth of 145 feet. And just to note that both parcels are sufficiently large without any additional recombination or subdivision to accommodate 2 new single-family homes in the future. Now, I did want to point out, and this is something that we already discussed at our pre-agenda meeting, my understanding is that the Rosemans had in the past submitted bids for those lots, which were rejected on the basis that at some point in the near future, when the town moves to the new town hall location, that the town may be considering the future of this property. As of yet, nothing has been decided, of course, but my understanding is that the board's pleasure may be to reject those 2 bids, but I do want to provide the Rosemans the opportunity to speak to those when we get to that point. I want to go ahead and skip to the other 2 properties that the Rosemans have submitted bids for. Those are going to be 608 South Carolina and 308 Kane Street. Let's see.
Let me ask you a question real fast before you go skip on that.
Yes, sir.
The 2, now there's an alleyway in the back of that property. Is that alleyway still gonna be access as far as that goes?
Alleyways are a pretty common conundrum throughout Spencer.
I know that's a no man's land.
You
but-
will always find alleys in any subdivision or zoning permit.
Yeah.
The burden is always on the applicant to ensure access to the alley if that's required.
Okay.
But typically, land developers know how to navigate these alleys.
Okay.
So moving on to 608 South Carolina, the bid that we received for that lot is $8,250, for which the 5% deposit of $412.50 has already been submitted to the town. That particular lot is valued at $14,500. It's actually jointly owned by both the town of Spencer and Rowan County, and so I actually spoke this morning to the Rowan County clerk, and she is confirming that the Rowan County Commission will also consider initiating the upset bid process for this lot. I will report back to her tomorrow morning on what y'all's decision is. Just to note that we are working together with the county to make sure that both the county and the town approve of this before we move forward.
Question.
Yes,
Who-
sir.
If it's owned both by the town and the county, do we split the sale of the lot?
That's what was done in the past for situations like this.
Yeah.
In fact, my understanding is that the town has a 49% stake and that the county has 51%. So if we want to be that specific,
Okay.
that's how we would divide it. But the county has done many upset bid sales like this.
Yeah.
And so the model that I'm using is a property that was jointly owned by the city of Salisbury and
Right.
Rowan County, and we're just going to follow the same process. Jay is familiar with this as well, and
Okay.
he's helping us make sure we're meeting all of our requirements.
Okay.
And this property is also zoned RMST, for which single-family residences, duplexes, and multifamily are supported. All right. And y'all see I provided some staff photographs of the lot. 608 South Carolina is in between 2 existing historic 2-family homes. My understanding is that at some point in the past, there was a 2-story home there, but it was demolished at some point, and I believe the town is maintaining this parcel in terms of maintenance. I could be wrong about that. All right, and moving on to the last lot, this is 308 Kane Street.
Hang on a second, Kyle.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that's in the historic district, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So any new construction would be reviewed by the HPC and approved prior to construction. Moving on to the last lot, 308 Kane Street, we have received a bid of $6,000 for this lot. I do want to point out that Mr. Mustaf Sharif, I did invite him to participate in tonight's meeting, but he was not present during public comments, and so that period has passed. 308 Kane Street is valued at $7,013. Like the other properties, it's zoned RMST, and the 2025 land use plan designates this property for residential development. Again, it is a 50-foot lot with a depth of 160 feet. All right, just a couple of additional notes before I turn it over to the Rosemans to talk about their intentions to use these lots. I did provide in y'all's package the bid letter that the Rosemans provided, as well as photographs of some additional homes that they have built in Spencer. This is just one example of a home that they've built. They've also built several additional homes which they may wish to speak to. If the board decides to initiate the upset bid process for any of these lots, what will happen after that is I will prepare a public notice which will go in the Salisbury Post. It will clearly state the deadline for anyone else to submit a higher bid, and the process that will play out is the process that's defined in the general statutes. In the past, it can become a fairly lengthy process if we do have sufficient interest that we're getting a number of higher bids. For these particular lots, I can't really say if it'll be a protracted bidding war, but that's the process that's laid out in the statutes, and so that's what we'll have to follow. So do y'all have any questions procedurally about how the upset bid process works, or any particular details about the facts of these 4 lots?
Any questions from the board? I don't believe so.
All right, so I'm going to invite the Rosemans, whichever one of you wants to come up and speak, and I've asked them to just provide some background on what y'all do and your successful projects and your qualifications.
How are you? I'm Chase Roseman.
Good. How are you?
How you doing?
Good. What do you want me to answer, or do you have any questions?
I guess just talk to us a little bit about kind of I know you've invested quite a bit thus far in Spencer.
Yes, sir.
In vacant properties, kind of what your plan is, what your vision is for development here in Spencer, and why you're seeking these properties.
The 308 and 608, we would be doing single-family homes similar to the ones in the picture. We have one on 507 beside the Round Church. We have one on 200 Alexander, and we have 2 on Whitehead that are currently getting framed. They're all similar in style. It's a nice floor plan. It fits the size lots since they're pretty narrow lots. You can't put so much on them.
Roughly what square footage on the houses?
1,200. The other one's 1,400, and the 2 on Whitehead are 1,650.
Okay, so 12 to 1,600.
Yeah.
A good starter size houses. And then, as far as ones you have under construction, are they speculative or have you sold them?
Speculative
Okay.
at the moment.
All right.
We haven't put them on the market.
Okay.
We're trying to get them a little farther along.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Let me ask you a question. On Kane Street, you're buying or putting in a bid for a lot. Are you also purchasing the lot right there on the corner in front of that as well?
I think the one on the corner somebody else owns, if
But
I'm
you're
not
not gonna
mistaken.
buy that lot? The impression I got from the other person that was bidding against you, he was gonna buy both lots.
Okay, I know the town of Spencer owns the second one over, and then
Second.
somebody else owns the corner, if I'm
Yeah, I
not
think
mistaken.
they were talking about negotiating with that owner,
Yeah, they
but
were.
that wasn't a given necessarily.
I think there was some concern about that big area. Some of the neighbors were concerned about apartments going in there, but you're stressing that you're gonna build single family as far as that goes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so single family for those 2 properties. What about your proposal for the 2 properties on 7th Street out here?
The right, 2 right there. We're contemplating putting 2 duplexes on it. If we could, I know Kyle said that they changed the regulations to, I think it was multifamily. You could do several things now since the last ones we had started. So that was just an option we had talked about.
How are you gonna prevent erosion on, and that's a real steep area right back in there. Have you thought about that as far as that goes?
Well, if you start construction, you got to put a silt fence up until you
know that.
got grass and everything established. Then after that, once it's there, you can take it up, and it shouldn't.
It's like it is now. There's no problem with erosion on it as far as I've seen. So once you got your grass established, then you wouldn't have an issue.
But it would be erosion on the backside, leaking on the back of the apartments or complexes or anything like that.
No, it's got a drainer. It's got a French drain around it. It's waterproof and a French drain around it, and you taper the grade away from it so it kind of sheds it away.
Okay, all right. So there's no issue about the access to this alleyway as well? I mean, are we?
I had briefly looked at it. I haven't looked at it real in depth yet, but that shouldn't be an issue
Okay,
with the setbacks and everything on the property.
okay.
we just had to split an alleyway over on Whitehead, so there's technically an alleyway there that'll never be there, but the neighbor's fence is on like the middle, and then ours is actually
It's like
our
a,
backyard's part of it, but it's,
it's like a 12-foot wide right of way or something right through there, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So,
Does the board have other questions for the Rosemans? All right, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for the work you're doing in town.
Yeah, thank you very much for what you do.
All right,
Do you have any additional questions for me?
anything else for Kyle?
Now, I would like to say I've ridden by the homes that they've built, and they are very attractive, and they've helped the neighborhoods, the ones that I've seen.
How much do the houses sell for?
the first one we sold on South Carolina, that was 165. The one we finished on 200, or on Alexander Street was 190. And, the ones over here on Whitehead will be somewhere probably around the 250, 260 range.
Okay.
The ones on Whitehead are on what are they, on half acre? On half acre, and they're, you know, we bumped the square footage up on them about 250, 300 square feet, so.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? All right, what I'd like for us to do, we've got each of these as separate items, so we'll need separate motions on each one. So we will start, we'll take the resolution for the sale of 108 7th Street, and I guess we can take both 108 and 110 at the same time since they are adjoining. So if we can have the board discuss the proposal with those two properties.
All right, I'm gonna make a motion just for the purpose of making a motion that we do put these 108 7th Street up for sale, okay? Just for information, because I got a question afterwards on that, after we motion is second.
Okay, so there is a motion, and there can be discussion after
Right.
that. So there's a motion at this point. Is there a second to put it through the upset bid process? 108 7th Street.
All right, let me go back and say this. Kyle says that we can turn these things down.
Correct.
So I don't think we got anything to lose if we go on and put it up for sale. So I do think the price is a little lower than I'd like to see. I think it's 11,000 instead of the 6,000. So I don't see it's gonna hurt us to put it up for sale. And if we decide, hey, we wanna help save it for this building here to sell, we can always say, no, it's not gonna sell.
I do think that's a good point. You know, we've discussed, we did entertain a previous offer on the property, and I think the discussion at that point was that we really wanted to maintain that property
Correct.
until we knew what we were gonna do with this larger
Correct.
complex, because that property coupled with this could be a much more attractive development opportunity. But based on the information we received from Kyle, it does nothing to hurt us putting it through the upset bid process to see what type of offers and what
We
that
can
market
get.
may bear.
Correct.
It
I
may
just-
have the
That's
ability-
not necessarily true.
I disagree.
That's right.
Okay.
I think that it would be unnecessary work on anyone's part. I think the board should stick with its original plan to keep those two lots and keep it together with this property for future sale.
Mr.
I
Mayor.
think even just going, that route of putting it in for an upset bid, I think it sends the wrong message, for one, in my opinion, that the properties, may be for sale separately than the building. And I just think that it's unnecessary work that in the end would more than likely be turned down, rejected. So I disagree.
Ms. Sledge.
I was just gonna say that this conversation is out of order because there was not a second to the motion, so the motion fails.
The motion
Well,
is
he didn't
dead,
have
the
a
motion
motion.
is dead on the table,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But the discussion is still active
There can be a
because,
discussion.
correct.
So can I make a motion?
Yes, you may make a motion.
I move that 108 7th Street not be sold by the town of Spencer at this time.
All right, there's a motion by Mr. Bish.
I'll second it.
And there's a second by Mr. Morgan. Now, is there further discussion?
Well, it sound like that's dead in the water.
No further discussion? All in favor? All right, all opposed? All right, so the sale of 108 7th Street, it has been declined by the board unanimously not to put that through the upset bid process. Similarly, 110 7th Street.
Make a motion, 110 7th Street not be sold at this current time.
There's a motion by Mr. Bish not to sell or put it through the upset bid process at this time. Is there a second?
And I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Morgan. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor of the motion? All right, all opposed? All right, and that one is also declined for the upset bid process. We'll now move on to 608 South Carolina Avenue. Discussion.
I make a motion that we put it up for upset bids.
All right, there's a motion by Mr. Miller.
And I'll second it.
And there's a second by Mr. Morgan to put this property through the upset bid process. 608 South Carolina Avenue. Any further discussion?
If I could, just to say that what you should be doing is adopting the resolution itself, because the language of the resolution is what governs how the process will work, and I think that's just a cleaner way to do it.
That's fine. So you want to restate your motion, Mr. Miller, to approve the resolution?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the resolution for the authorization of the upset bid for this property at 608 South Carolina Avenue.
All right.
Where's the resolution?
It's,
Oh, right here.
just past 511.
And I'll second that resolution.
Very good.
No, attachment of
Thank you.
here,
You're welcome.
planning and zoning, keep going. Okay.
Thank you, Kyle.
So there's a motion by Mr. Miller. There's a second by Mr. Morgan. We're going to wait just a moment to make sure everybody can see the resolution.
Is this all in one or not? It's all
It's for
separate?
each parcel.
Yeah, this is just on 608 South Carolina.
This is 608.
Mr. Bish, it just simply outlines the statute process, defined process for the upset bid process. And outlines the amount that's been offered at $88,250.
And we're only talking about the 608?
Correct.
608.
All right, so there is a motion and a second on the floor. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? All right, all opposed? All right, that resolution is approved unanimously. We'll now move to the resolution authorizing sale of 308 Kane Street.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that the town offer to adopt the resolution authorizing the upset bid process for the property at 308 Kane Street.
All right, there's a motion by Mr. Miller.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Morgan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? All right, all opposed? All right, that resolution is approved unanimously. All right. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your investment in this town.
Thank you.
I might buy one of those houses.
All right, item 18, consider authorizing the town manager to execute change order 4 for the Town Hall Police Department project. It's attachment 13 in your agenda.
I'm just thinking about
That's
Go
not-
ahead.
That's not a resolution, is it? Just check.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. We did discuss this at the pre-agenda with the town attorney. And to summarize, this is a change order that would accomplish HVAC roof equipment lifting and curb extensions that's needed to correct existing conditions discovered during the initial part of roofing work on the project. This change order would result in an increase of $22,788 to the contract with Vertex Construction, and would, if approved, leave about $52,000 in our contingency for the project. Vertex Construction did not do the typical markup on this change order. After several rounds of discussions, they're only covering the costs in place for their bonds and some of their fixed costs on the project versus their typical markup that they would on our change orders.
Right, and again, we filled the board in on Thursday at the pre-agenda meeting on the details of the change order. Mr. Bishop, you weren't able to attend, so we're happy to provide you additional detail on it if you would like.
Now, if the board is satisfied, I'll go along with the board.
Okay, is there any discussion from the board or any additional questions following last week's meeting?
Saw the crane there this morning, and I came back by, and the crane was gone this afternoon.
Interesting.
I think we ought to make sure that the architect and engineer understands that we are help paying for their mistake, and we shouldn't have any more mistakes in the future for completion of this project. Because I still think, even though it's been amended that it's our responsibility, I still think it's their responsibility. And they should be paying a little bit of that cost.
As stated on Thursday,
I
I
know.
made them aware of that.
I wanna
and
get my 2 cents worth
As
in.
directed tonight, I will continue to make sure to remind them of that.
Yeah, definitely remind them we should not have any more change orders.
Related to this sort of thing, related to emissions.
That's neglect on their responsibility.
Any further discussion? All right, is there a motion to approve this change order in the amount of $22,788?
I move to accept that the resolution, or the authorize the town manager to execute the change order.
All right, there's a
And
motion.
I'll second that
All right,
change order.
Motion by Ms. Sledge, second by Mr. Morgan. Any further discussion? All in favor?
I might put my hand
All
halfway
opposed?
up.
All right, change order 4 is approved. Thank you very much. And with that, we've reached the point of requesting comments by the mayor and board members. I will start with Ms. Sledge.
You always do that.
Sorry, I will start with Mr. Miller.
All right, very quick, I got 2 comments real fast. Newsletter came out, and hats off again to a fine job. Really looked good. It's very professional. I hope our community will take advantage of this and the advertisement of current events coming up. We'll, fill out the paper as far as that goes, newsletter, because I think it's really a good production, and I think you've done a good job as far as that goes.
Thank you. Thank you, Stacy, for coordinating. I know you were heavily involved as well.
Stacy, you did, hats off to you, Stacy, as well. Now, I got one little comment, if you don't mind, and this is a plug for my church, if you don't mind. Central United Methodist Church. Each summer for the last 20-some years, we have been performing a circus-trained puppet Christian ministry, and it's performed every Saturday afternoon or Saturday morning through the month of July at 11:30, and it's free for all the public. It's Christian-based, and we advertise it. We don't advertise it. We just like people to show up. We encourage you to do that. Like I said, it's Christian-based. It's about a 30 or 45-minute show. Afterwards, we feed everybody a hot dog, a drink, and a snow cone. So I don't see why you can't show up.
What are the dates again?
It's every Saturday in July. So I think we got 2 more Saturdays. Starts at 11:30. It's beside our church
Okay.
on Aiken Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Mr. Morgan.
I want to encourage anyone that's listening to please visit our website between July 15th and hopefully by the middle of next week. We, as a board, I personally would like to take the opportunity to encourage everyone to become more involved in your community. And this is one way to do it. We've got the night out coming up in August, and there are still a lot of people that don't know who their neighbors are, and I would encourage all of you to continue to help bridge those gaps so that we become a more cohesive community, so that people know what's going on. If you don't have access to a website or a computer, or if you know people that, especially older adults that don't, we encourage you to have them contact the town so that if they do need help with anything in terms of services, if they want to know what's going on, hopefully over these past 2 years, we've been able to get Spencer closer to a higher level of communication among everyone, and that's what we want.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan.
Good.
Ms. Evers?
I just want to thank Chief Lanning at the end of this, because he said a few things that always I take in account for and why I'm up here. He spoke of, dropping a ball on a call, reference to the different things, and it's like you can't apologize for the circumstances that are not within your control, okay, from one chief to the next. You're doing really good. And everyone needs to know that, because to me, he has turned the fire department around. Look, he just told us tonight that he's got 2 other people that came on board voluntarily. It speaks in volumes, even when he spoke of helping out making sure he has help in collaborating with the next door town. It shouldn't have to take any individual, are they taking upon themselves to feel that kind of responsibility that he has done. And it didn't take the board members to tell him that he's got to hire people of different diversity. It didn't take board members to tell him that he needs to tell his people to make sure that they communicate or collaborate. All these things are being done on his own, and that shows to me, Chief, that you're doing a good job, even with morale. If you got people coming and you don't have to go and get more money, and you don't have to go to job fairs to find people, and you don't use excuses of why you hadn't hired anybody, it tells me and it speaks in volumes that you're a good leader. I just want to tell you that out loud.
All right, thank you, Ms. Ovis. Now, Ms. Sledge.
Okay. Thank you. I really don't have a lot to say, but I would like to say that I had the occasion to drive to Tyro this afternoon to, my drugstore's still over there. And I noticed as I was driving through, a lot of properties over in Davidson County were grown up and looked bad. And I hadn't really thought a lot about it, but Spencer looks good. And we take care of the things here, and it makes me more appreciative of what goes on here and the people who are serving us and our staff who are working to help to keep this place a nice place to live. Because when I first talked about coming here, people said, "Why in the world would you want to move to Spencer?" So, now looking at Davidson County, I know I'm in the right place. So thank you all for the work you do.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Sledge. Mr. Bish.
Yeah, I think I'm probably one of the oldest persons in this room, so I can offer a spanking every now and then, and just because
Oh my goodness.
just because I'm not physically here doesn't mean that I don't know what's going on. So thanks to the gentleman in the corner that records these meetings for YouTube, and I do watch them the next day. So I was quite aware of what was going on. But you don't have to vote on my absence.
We don't.
excusing me to be absent.
That was funny.
I did too. I don't know why we did that.
I was tossing a fit. I said,
I
what
started
the
voting against it.
What the heck are they doing voting on?
He was so used to doing it that he didn't realize that he
Well,
It's like
hold on a moment.
Let me tell you.
I'm not going to throw Stacy under the bus,
Let
but
me tell you
Stacy
this.
has gotten the direction
All right.
from Tammy
There's a
that
lot of people
is-
gonna get spanked.
is the process.
So if you see me on the road, if you see me on the road driving,
Watch out.
and I'm in the left-hand lane, and I put my right turn signal on, I'm not asking you for permission. I'm going over there. I'm just letting you know ahead of time. So when I let you know that I'm not going to make a meeting, you don't have to vote on whether it's okay to be excused. All right, that's fine.
And I will. So we will get clarification on that. Our direction that we have received from previous town clerks is that is the appropriate process. But we will confirm that. And I appreciate
All right.
you letting us know.
I'll give you all the Robert's Rules of Order here. Okay, and the second thing I wanted to mention, I just needed an answer, and I don't know if we need to go into closed session for that. I never got an answer on the negotiations for the exterminating building.
We can go into closed session very briefly, and I can give you a 30-second update on that.
Okay.
All right. All right. Wait. You're gonna make him look it
I'm
up?
kind of disappointed in Miss Sledge since she knows all the rules and everything else. Why she let that thing slide like that? Pat, were you sleeping?
She's gonna
on
look it
that
up
one?
now. She's gonna look it up now.
No,
Then.
I did question the way the vote was recorded.
All right. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I have just a couple of things, and most of it deals with education. First of all, I wanted to say I'm so happy that East Spencer and Spencer are collaborating and doing things together. That really makes my heart feel good, and I've been wanting to see a lot of that. I had it wasn't the pleasure, but I was with Barbara Mallett at a funeral this week, Miss Virginia Ramsey, who taught for many years at North Rowan High School, and she really just walked on water. She was an outstanding teacher, outstanding family. And I sat with both Barbara and Jean Kennedy, and Virginia was a resident of East Spencer too. So I'm so excited that we are doing that collaboration, and I think it's good for the kids in this area. And I'm also very, very excited, and I have to point this out, one of my former students, Mr. Jonathan Clark, who I taught in the 8th grade, is getting ready to be principal at North Rand Middle School. And I wrote him a note and I said, boy, life came full circle. Because in the 8th grade, he was very, very bright and he was just full of himself. He was a wonderful student to teach. Very challenging because he could absorb things like a sponge. And it's just wonderful to see him heading North Rand Middle School, and he's grew up in this area, and your wife at North Rand High School. And that's no slight to the others, but it's nice to see some home people in those two schools, and I think it's going to really make a big difference.
I look forward to the collaboration
Yeah, I
between
do
all the
too.
schools in the district. That's great. Thank you, Ms. Sechrist. I have no further comments. I've been appropriately scolded tonight, so we can move forward. I will say, Mr. Bish, at least you were excused. It could have really, had you not been excused, it would have really.
What would we done with that?
No comment. No
We didn't do that.
Well, no, I think y'all did announce that I was not here because
We
I
announced
had
it, but we
COVID.
didn't vote.
Yeah, but
So we didn't vote on it. That's exactly right. That's
Nor did we vote when
We
he
got a
wasn't
little
here. And you had to
partiality
sit
going
in
on
his
here.
place.
Well,
I want to say we like you a lot.
You were attending
I
that.
was here, but I wasn't.
Did we vote that that was okay?
I wasn't, like I said, I was going to vote no on that.
We will clarify that. We'll get it straightened out. Thanks for calling us on it, Bob. All right. Very good. Well, we've reached the end of our agenda with nothing further. Well, actually, we do need to go into closed session based on Mr. Bishop's comment. So is there a motion to go into closed session?
Also moved.
A motion by Mr. Morgan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Hovis. All in favor? All right. All opposed? All right. We are in closed session.